Chapter 2765. Unknowingly, dozens of figures appeared around Lin Xian and the others. These figures were wrapped in the aura of the Tao of Dragon, and they let out deep roars. Occasionally, everyone could see the scales that flickered with cold light under the aura of the Tao of Dragon, as well as the terrifying claws and teeth. The creatures of the nest of 10,000 dragons! Lin Xian exclaimed, and the people around him were also terrified. In front, the sacred leaders and sect masters also exclaimed. Damn it, could it be that they were alarmed? But more than a dozen creatures of the nest of 10,000 dragons quickly moved out, charging towards the young disciples like bolts of lightning. In an instant, blood spurted out, and screams sounded. Many people were torn in half, and blood dyed the sky red. Damn it, retreat! The sacred lords roared angrily. The young disciples, sacred princes, and geniuses all quickly attacked. Clang, the Four Elements sacred leader, fought against a humanoid creature, and was directly blasted back, his entire arm numb. Damn it, they were actually so powerful! The others were also stunned. It was too terrifying. What exactly were these things? Were they beasts or dragons? How could they be so terrifying? Damn it! The sect masters in front shouted coldly. Two of them brandished their sacred weapons and charged over. Terrifying sacred might overflowed, shattering the sky. Terrifying flames burned fiercely. This attack! It was truly terrifying. Sure enough, many humanoid creatures were sent flying, their bodies exploding and turning into a bloody mist. This scene made these young disciples heave a sigh of relief. However, in the next moment, they screamed. In fact, the sacred leader who attacked also let out a miserable cry. Because one of his arms was directly torn apart. In front, a few humanoid creatures also appeared. The aura on their bodies was even more terrifying, like the abyss. As soon as they attacked, they injured a sect master. This scene made the sacred leaders cry out in alarm. Damn it, the creatures in the nest of 10,000 dragons had really awakened. Everyone, retreat! At this moment, they were really panicking. Because they discovered that more and more terrifying creatures were appearing around them. How did they appear? These sacred leaders and sect masters didn't know. However, the terror of these creatures was far beyond their imagination. In fact, these humanoid creatures were also holding ancient treasures in their hands to resist their sacred weapons. In an instant, a chaotic battle broke out. On Lin Xian's side, he also received a fierce blow. Foolish humans, you actually dared to trespass into the nest of 10,000 dragons. Go to hell! A cold voice rang out, causing everyone's scalp to go numb. Do it quickly! Lin Xian, Leaf Dao Denier, Dustless, and the others all roared in rage. The other saints, Heaven's Chosen, and all the martial artists attacked like crazy. At the same time, they quickly retreated, wanting to leave this area completely. But on Lin Xian's side, a blue ray of light turned into a bolt of lightning and shattered the void, blocking the path of Lin Xian and the others. That azure figure let out a cold voice that sounded like thunder. It was extremely terrifying as it rolled towards Lin Xian. This sound wave was too terrifying. The martial artists around Lin Xian vomited mouthfuls of blood as they retreated. Just a single sound wave was enough to severely injure them. Lin Xian snorted coldly. His 9-yang divine body bloomed with light as he resisted the terrifying sound wave. Those sound waves hit his body and made a sonorous sound. It was extremely vast and mighty, as if 10,000 thunderbolts had descended. However, Lin Xian was fine. Buzz! Clenching his hand into a fist, he rushed forward. This fist was like a sun that exploded in the void. The resplendent light illuminated the world. A terrifying force burst out from his body. With a bang, the azure figure in front of him was forced back. Damn human, you're courting death! The azure figure was enraged. He let out a long roar and two more figures appeared around him. They were also azure in color and incomparably deep, like the sea. The three figures were like three sharp blades as they charged towards Lin Xian once again. Foolish and lowly humans, today is the day you die. The aura of these three figures was too powerful. It was like 3 endless seas, pressing down on those people until they couldn't breathe. So strong! So terrifying! What the hell are these things? The young disciples were stunned. Other than a few top prodigies, the others could only resist with all their might. What do you humans think you are? In front of the ancient royal family, you're just ants. The azure figure let out a sinister laugh. So now, ants, go to hell. 3 streaks of blue sword were produced from that light. They descended from the sky, and their sharp aura made people tremble. Ants? Lin Xian sneered. The light of the 9-yang divine body became more and more tyrannical. His fist had completely transformed into a golden crow as he charged forward. Boom! The light cracked, and the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The 3 blue heavenly swords were directly shattered. Not only that, the 3 azure figures were also forced back. 2 of them directly exploded, and blue blood splattered all over the sky. I'm an ant? Then what are you guys, who can't even block a punch from me? You're worse than ants. Lin Xian's voice was sonorous as he looked ahead disdainfully. At this moment, he was like a sun war god that people looked up to. Damn it, how could he be so strong? The azure figures were extremely shocked. The surrounding archaic creatures were also stunned. What was going on? How could there be such a strong physique in the human race? Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, many ancient creatures gathered towards Lin Xian. The human race is not something you can insult. At this moment, Yu Dao also said coldly. Immediately after, his fist turned into an unparalleled radiance, killing 2 humanoid creatures as well. This scene was also shocking. On Wuchen's side, thousands of rays of Buddhist light flashed. He also killed a few ancient creatures with his flower-pinching finger. Not good, there's a peerless genius in the human race. The expressions of these ancient creatures changed, and their expressions became solemn. They originally thought that with their powerhouses restraining the sacred leaders and sect masters, they could easily kill the younger generation. They didn't expect that there would be such a powerful figure in the younger generation. However, this was not the end of it. What shocked them even more was still to come. After Lin Xian and the other 2, the Daoyi Holy Sun, Gu Santong, Wuhua, Murong Qingqing, Xinjingqiu, the Crimson Dragon, the Dian Holy Sun, all of the saint prodigies displayed extraordinary strength, surprising the ancient creatures. In an instant, dozens of ancient creatures were completely suppressed. Many of them even bled. Their blood was blue, green, and black. It was very strange. Ancient creatures? Powerhouses from the nest of 10,000 dragons? They were just SOSO. Seeing the wavering light Holy Sun kill 2 ancient creatures in one strike, the cultivators of the wavering light sacred land sneered. Lowly humans, what do you know? Do you really think you can compete with the ancient royal family? Our master has not awakened. Otherwise, one of them would be able to kill all of you. The humanoid creatures snorted. What? Master? These creatures actually called the sleeping dragons their master. Could it be that these ancient life forms were just servants? Heavens! Just some slaves were so heaven-defying and terrifying? They could compete with the top holy sons? They didn't dare to imagine how terrifying the real dragon race, the ancient royal family, would be. Chapter 2766. Lin Xian and the others also had solemn expressions. If what the other party said was true, then the primordial emperor ancestor was truly terrifying. The Crimson Dragon sneered. A group of slaves dare to be arrogant in front of me? Hurry up and scram for Ben Huang. Otherwise, Ben Huang will eat you all. Lowly ants, you're courting death. The ancient creatures roared angrily. They stared at the Crimson Dragon, but soon, they cried out in surprise. Their bodies trembled. Dragon, you're actually a dragon. That's right, Ben Huang is a dragon. Why aren't you slaves kneeling on the ground? The Crimson Dragon snorted coldly. The ancient creatures in front trembled. Their expressions changed drastically. No, you're not from the dragon race of the nest of 10,000 dragons. Who are you? Kill them! Kill them! They're plotting something. These people roared angrily. Their bodies emitted tens of thousands of rays of light as they charged out again. The battle erupted. It was extremely intense. However, Lin Xian and the others were very powerful and gradually suppressed these ancient creatures. However, this was the nest of 10,000 dragons after all. It was full of mysteries. These ancient creatures cooperated with each other and actually triggered the array formation here. In an instant, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. A terrifying aura swept in all directions. The entire world was boiling as a terrifying array formation enveloped the surroundings. This caused Lin Xian and the others to fall into danger once again. Boom! In front, the battle between the sacred leaders and sect leaders was also abnormally terrifying. Many ancient creatures appeared in the surroundings. These ancient creatures were very terrifying. They were not weaker than these sacred leaders and sect leaders. In fact, many of the elders of these sacred lands were killed. Pooh! An elder of the 10,000 thunder sacred ground was surrounded by lightning. He was like a god of thunder. However, a palm stretched out, tore through the lightning that filled the sky, and directly crushed his heart. With a puff, the body of the elder of the 10,000 thunder sacred ground split into pieces. However, that palm retracted, grabbed a heart, and directly put it into his mouth. Then, he began to eat. This scene made everyone's scalps go numb. They looked forward. There was a tall human figure in front of them. It looked like a human, but it had a tail and wings. Its head was like that of a crocodile, which was extremely terrifying. He had already killed 3 elders of the Holy Land. Each time, he had killed them with a single strike. He had crushed their hearts and swallowed them whole. But the Great Derivation's Sacred Lord waved his Great Derivation's sacred sword. The moment he slashed out, the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. The terrifying creature was sent flying. However, it was useless. More and more archaic creatures appeared in the surroundings, their auras incomparably terrifying. They also activated a terrifying killing array to kill these sacred masters and sect masters. The Queen Mother, Yi family's patriarch, Li Xunxian, and the others had grave expressions on their faces. They noticed that other than the ancient lifeforms around them, there were also roars coming from afar. Furthermore, a shocking aura rapidly spread across the place and burst out from it. Not good. I'm afraid that the ancient royal family in the nest of 10,000 dragons is really going to revive. Everyone, retreat quickly. After he returned, he would make further plans. These sacred leaders and sect masters began to retreat. Behind them, there were also many powerful archaic creatures. Some of them were even wielding broken artifacts as they charged over. Boom! In the distance, the heavens and earth shook once more. Countless auras of the Tao of Dragon erupted, and the mountain with countless black holes rumbled. The powerhouses sealed by the divine crystals floated out. They floated in the sky. Although their eyes were still closed, the auras on their bodies were becoming stronger and stronger. But in fact, a 10-meter-tall divine crystal also appeared in the sky. It was like an ancient demonic mountain, suppressing these sacred masters and sect masters until they found it difficult to breathe. Not good. It's that ancient king. Everyone was shocked. They had encountered it before. The wisp of aura emitted by the other party had already made them extremely shocked. They didn't expect that the other party would appear again. If such a terrifying powerhouse revived, they would probably be in danger. Whoosh! Whoosh! These people retreated crazily. Hurry up and contact our people. Summon our saints. Many people from the sacred lands and great sects shouted angrily. The Yi family, Gu family, Immortal Palace, Jade Pool, and Alcade also attacked. However, a peerless formation enveloped heaven and earth, isolating the aura. As a result, the teleportation formation couldn't be formed at all, and they couldn't send the news out. Lowly humans, do you still want to call yourselves humans? Today, you will be completely buried here. A cold and heartless voice sounded. The murderous aura of the 9 heavens and 10 earths swept out. Accompanied by the aura of the Tao of Dragon, it formed a scene of destruction. Boom! 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 In front of them, the sky-reaching divine tree also slowly trembled, and its body gradually rose into the air. Obviously, this primordial divine technique wasn't dead, but alive. However, it was too huge. With a slight sway, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. In the sky, countless lightning bolts descended, dancing in the air as they charged towards the elders. Not good, the sky-reaching divine tree was about to attack. These people went crazy. They discovered that those lightning bolts weren't lightning, but the branches of the sky-reaching divine tree. However, each of them was extremely sharp. They were like divine swords that slashed in all directions. These people could only desperately block them. Boom! 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 The sky-reaching divine tree gradually left the ground, and the paths that it blocked also appeared. However, no one was excited. Originally, they wanted to know what was behind the sky-reaching divine tree. But now, they couldn't care less. They fought like crazy. However, some people couldn't help but take a glance and then scream. "Dragon, it's a dragon!" The Grand Elder screamed. The other sect masters and sacred masters also probed their souls and looked into the distance. In the next moment, their scalps went numb. In the distance, Lin Xian and the others also looked over. Heavens! Lin Xian was shocked. Those people also screamed. "It's really a dragon!" That's right. Behind the sky-reaching divine tree, there was an even wider area. On that land, there were many figures lying cross-legged. They were like mountains lying there. The small ones were more than 10 meters tall, while the big ones were hundreds of meters tall. There was even one that was more than 10,000 meters tall. They couldn't see the end of it. At first glance, they thought that it was a mountain, but those people were too powerful and their eyes were sharp. They realized that it wasn't a mountain at all. It was a body. Many bodies were lying on the ground like a mountain range. There were cold scales on them that flickered with a metallic light. They emitted a monstrous aura that made one's blood freeze. That was the pressure from the bloodline soul. Only an extremely powerful bloodline could cause such a scene. Everyone knew that those were dragons, the same dragons as in the legends. There were really dragons, and those dragons were all sleeping. Some of them were sealed by divine crystals, while others were sealed by dragon veins. In short, all the dragons were sleeping. However, the aura that they emitted was like an ancient abyss that could crush people. There were more in the distance. The crimson dragon pointed into the distance and screamed. He was a dragon himself, so he was more familiar with those things. Everyone hurriedly fought while using their souls to probe. The sacred masters and sect masters did the same. In the next moment, they were even more shocked. The reason for that was because they discovered that there were many god crystals floating around those enormous dragons, and even further away. Were those also dragons? Or were they servants of the dragons? They didn't know. Chapter 2767. The Crimson Dragon said. A dragon, an even more terrifying dragon. Everyone sensed it carefully and found that it was indeed so. These human-shaped dragons were even more terrifying. Some of them even had dragon horns on their heads, some had dragon scales on their bodies, and some had dragon tails and dragon wings. They were extremely terrifying. Among them, the living fossils of the Toba family, Nangong family, and Ouyang family, the three great spirit-seeker families, also quickly used their spirit-seeking techniques. They probed into the distance. They wanted to see clearly what was in the depths of the nest of 10,000 dragons. Their gazes became incomparably deep. Mysterious runes flickered, carrying a terrifying light that pierced through everything. These were three living fossil elders. They had already lived for more than 3,000 years. Their spirit-seeking technique was even more terrifying. This time, the three great spirit-seeker families were led by them. Therefore, at this moment, they used their terrifying spirit-seeking technique, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. The entire world also underwent a strange change. In front of them, countless auras of the Tao of Dragons surged and gradually spread out. Everyone seemed to be able to see the scene in the distance clearly. However, the good times didn't last long. Not long after, the three living fossil-level spirit seeker masters screamed in pain. They kept rolling and covering their faces with their hands. Blood flowed down their fingers. Elders. The people of the three great spirit seeker families screamed crazily. What was going on? Why was their elder John injured? The living fossil elders of the three spirit seeker families screamed in pain. My eyes! Damn it, my eyes! They screamed crazily. Their eyes were bleeding and they were directly blinded. The road ahead was once again covered by the aura. It was thick and heavy, and everyone couldn't see clearly again. This made everyone even more puzzled. What exactly did these living fossils see? Even their eyes were blinded. Could it be that they saw something they shouldn't have seen? Everyone's bodies trembled. What exactly was in the depths of the nest of 10,000 dragons? Elders, what did you see? The people of the three great spirit seeker families also quickly asked. However, the three living fossil elders shook their heads crazily. They didn't dare to say it. They would be blinded with just a glance. If they said it, who knew if the terrifying array formation of the nest of 10,000 dragons would directly kill them? However, if they didn't say it, these people became even more curious. This was especially true for the sacred leader and the sect master. They wanted to know more. The Taishian Saint Master was surrounded by 108 stars as if he was the master of the starry sky. His eyes were like two universes. The light of the stars pierced through and shattered the aura of the Tao of dragons in the sky, opening up a path. The Yin-Yang sect leader had the Yin-Yang mirror above his head. Black and white auras flowed around his body. It was quite strange and terrifying. At this moment, he also activated the Yin-Yang mirror and shot out a beam of Yin-Yang light that shot forward. The head of the Gu clan appeared and disappeared unpredictably like a ghost. He directly used the void technique, causing the void in front of him to split open and devour the endless aura of the Tao of dragons. The Yi clan's clan head, the Queen Mother of the West, and the other sacred leaders and sect masters also attacked together. Li Xuanxian's body emitted a sharp aura. A flying knife appeared in his hand. The flying knife was 2 fingers wide, and it flashed with an endless cold light. Buzz as the saber flew out, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Ghosts wailed and wolves howled. It pierced through the void. The terrifying aura caused the faces of the sacred leaders and sect masters to change. Those elders were also trembling. Some of them screamed, "Shao Li's flying dagger." It was actually him. Damn it, he actually joined the Immortal Palace. What? Are you talking about that amazing Shao Li's flying dagger who swept through the 9 heavens and 10 lands with a wave of flying daggers? Some of the sacred leaders' faces changed. They didn't recognize him before, and he didn't use the flying dagger. Now that the flying dagger was out, it shocked the heavens and shocked the gods. It made them immediately think of that terrifying person back then. It was him. It was definitely him. They didn't expect him to appear again after being silent for 800 years. Those elders and sacred leaders cried out in surprise. Behind them, Lin Xian and the others were also shocked. When the flying dagger appeared, these sacred leaders and prodigies felt their hair stand on end. Many of them directly knelt on the ground. They felt that this blade light would be able to annihilate them completely. Lin Xian's body also trembled. The great dragon sword soul in his body roared and blocked this shocking saber light. It was too terrifying. This was the most terrifying saber light he had ever seen. This Li Xuanxian was actually so terrifying. He hadn't seen him fight before, but now it seemed that his strength was definitely not weaker than those sacred leaders and sect masters. Moreover, when he attacked, the sacred leaders and sect masters looked as if they had seen a ghost. Could it be that Li Xuanxian had an even more shocking identity? That should be it. Yu Wadao, Dustless, Gu Santong, and the others also had serious expressions. The Crimson Dragon was even more surprised. This immortal palace was indeed mysterious and strange. Who knew what kind of peerless figure would appear in the future? With so many sacred leaders and sect masters attacking together, they broke through the Tao of Dragon aura in front of them. Everyone once again saw the scene in front of them clearly. In the next moment, they cried out in surprise, their hearts beating wildly. Even the Crimson Dragon was shocked. He screamed and felt that the blood in his body was about to freeze. Lin Xian, Yi Wudao, and the young disciples were even more frightened. The sacred leaders, sect masters, and grand elders also felt their scalps go numb. The reason for that was because they saw an altar in the distance. It was a 5-colored altar. The altar was very ancient and emitted a desolate aura. It had existed for countless years. On the altar there was an egg, a golden egg. It was as big as a wash basin, and there were countless mysterious Tao patterns on it. They were densely packed and dazzling. The egg was golden. On the mysterious altar in the depths of the nest of 10,000 dragons, there was actually an egg. What kind of egg was this? Could it be a dragon egg? No one knew. However, this scene infuriated the ancient creatures in the surroundings. They roared and pounced crazily, causing the sacred leaders and sect masters to have no chance to observe. The young prodigies on Lin Xian's side were also fiercely attacked. In an instant, the endless Tao of dragon aura in front of them surged and once again enveloped the mysterious golden dragon egg. Everything could no longer be seen. As for Lin Xian and the other sect masters, they were all in danger. Many young disciples were killed, and even a few saints had their bodies pierced through. The battle in the distance was even more tragic. Many grand elders of the sacred grounds and sects were hacked apart. Their bodies were directly swallowed alive. What made them even more desperate was that in the sky, the 10-meter-tall divine crystal and the purple primordial kings suddenly erupted with a terrifying wave of air. It surged downward and turned into a thick purple aura that covered the sky and the earth. In an instant, many sacred leaders and sect masters vomited blood. Not good, quickly block it. These sacred leaders and sect masters all activated their sacred weapons to block the terrifying purple light. At the same time, countless ancient creatures appeared in the surroundings. They had a life-and-death battle with these sacred leaders. Chapter 2768. In an instant, Li Xunxian, the patriarch of the Yi family, the patriarch of the Gu family, and the Queen Mother of the West were all under intense attacks. These primordial creatures were too powerful. They could even mobilize the surrounding Tao of dragon aura and peerless killing formations at will. The sacred Lord of 10,000 Thunder used his lightning god's wings and flew quickly in the sky. 2 lightning god's wings turned into lightning heavenly blades that slashed in all directions. Wherever they passed, 4 primordial creatures were cut in half, and blood splattered everywhere. The Yin-Yang sect leader held the Yin-Yang mirror in his hand and bombarded the surrounding primordial creatures. A jade lake appeared beside the Queen Mother of the West. A drop of jade lake holy water directly pierced through those terrifying creatures. It turned them into nothingness. The patriarch of the Yi family was like a golden god of war. He opened and closed his palms, creating a bloody path. The patriarch of the Gu family appeared and disappeared unpredictably. Every time he appeared, he could easily kill primordial creatures. Li Xunxian was even more terrifying. The flying knives in his hand never missed. Every time, he would kill with a single strike. There was even a time when he directly killed 7 primordial creatures with a single strike. It was truly terrifying. The surrounding sacred lords, royal lords, and Buddhist abbot all attacked one after another. However, the enemies were even more terrifying. Among these primordial creatures, there were a few that were extremely terrifying. One of them was surrounded by flames. The flame wings on its back spread out and directly burned several elders of the 5 Elements Palace to ashes. The other one had a long humanoid figure. It had a head of incomparably green hair and turned into a poisonous python. He held a green sword in his hand. With a wave of his hand, he killed several elders of the Dayan's sacred land and the Tai dynasty. Buzz! The sky-reaching tree was even more terrifying. Its branches hung down and directly enveloped the elders of the Yi family, the Gu family, the Daoyi sacred land, and the Jade Lake. In an instant, they were hung up. Their heads were chopped off. In an instant, blood spurted out, and miserable screams rang out. These were all peerless experts. Their blood turned into a sea of blood in the air, forming a hell of azure. The monstrous killing intent was astonishing, making one's scalp tingle. Terrifying, it was really too terrifying. This was an intense battle. Perhaps no one in the outside world would have thought that the sacred lord, who usually dominated a region and was respected by the world, would be injured. Here, he was seriously injured and even killed. On Lin Xian's side, he was facing an unprecedented crisis. Only the top saints could resist it with the treasures in their hands. Those young disciples could not resist at all. Even the weaker saints and prodigies were mercilessly killed. And this was just some servants dealing with them. If it was a true far ancient royal, it would be even more dangerous. As expected, an even more terrifying ancient life form roared and charged toward Lin Xian. The faces of Lin Xian, Leaf Daodenir, and the others instantly flickered. Not good, everyone, join hands. The crimson dragon screeched and swung its tail, exuding a mighty dragon aura that intimidated the ancient creature. This primordial creature was extremely terrifying. The moment it appeared, the aura it exuded made the Shangzis feel as if they were facing a formidable foe. Everyone joined forces and attacked. However, it was shattered by a single slap from the primordial creature. The ground cracked open, and an endless aura of the Tao of Dragon filled the air. Those people all retreated. Lin Xian and Leaf Daodenir had strong physiques. Murong Qingqing, Xinjingqiu, and the others also had bloodline power revolving around them. They only retreated. However, the other prodigies did not have strong physiques or terrifying bloodlines. Some of their bodies split open, and their blood dyed the ground red. With just a single strike, they had received such heavy injuries. This caused everyone to be extremely shocked. Roar! The ancient creature let out another roar and charged over again. After 2 moves, these people were even more severely injured. Some saints and saintesses were even killed. Several princes of the Ninli dynasty were also killed. The western desert monks also spat out mouthfuls of blood. Many of them had their heads smashed. Among them, Wuchen was the strongest. Wuhua was also extremely mysterious. He pointed one hand to the sky and the other to the ground, exuding terrifying bloodline power. There was also one who had a Zhang 6 golden body. His entire body shone with light like a Buddha. He was Wuchen's junior brother, and was also a terrifying prodigy. He cultivated the Zhang 6 golden body, which was a supreme physique. The southern mountain prodigies were the same. For some reason, Yan Nantian did not come to the southern mountains Yan family. However, the Yan family's prodigies were also extremely powerful. In the northern plains, the demon kings of the Demon King Palace were roaring. At the same time, they were terrified. It was too terrifying. The bloodline power of the ancient life form was causing them great trouble. Hua Tiandu's face was gloomy. The bloodline power in his body shone brightly. However, he was also injured. The saints and prodigies were all injured. If the ancient life form continued to attack, they would be killed sooner or later. Qingqing, Qiu, are you all right? Lin Xian came to Xinjingqiu and Murong Qingqing and asked in a deep voice. The 2 of them shook their heads. However, their faces were pale. Rosalong, do you have any ideas? Lin Xian asked. If not, he would really have to go all out. He would summon the great dragon sword soul or enter the black earth directly. Wait, I'll try. The crimson dragon stepped forward. He did not attack. Instead, he spoke a strange language. This scene puzzled Lin Xian and the others. They did not understand what it meant. In front, the tyrannical ancient creature was stunned. It stopped and looked at the dark red divine dragon in bewilderment. It spoke the ancient language as well. They were communicating. Lin Xian took a deep breath. Yu Wudao, Gu Santong, and the others also had serious expressions. The great Xia Prince, the Alcade Sage, and the other prodigies were also waiting silently. The Crimson Dragon spoke the dragon language. The dragon language was a very noble language among the immemorial royal family. Apart from the dragon tribe, the immemorial royal family members should also know it. Therefore, the Crimson Dragon tried. As expected, the ancient life form in front of him stopped and communicated with him. As the Crimson Dragon spoke, he emitted his dragon blood and dragon aura. The dragon blood surged and the dragon aura spread, making the ancient life form in front of him confused. He did not make a move, but his pair of cold eyes still carried a vigilant light. He stood in front and stared coldly at the Crimson Dragon, Lin Xian, and the other saints. "How is it, Rizalong?" Lin Xian asked telepathically. "Fortunately, these ancient life forms have just awakened and don't know much about it. Therefore, I should be able to fool him for the time being. Hurry and tell the people around to not act rashly." Hearing this, Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief. He hurriedly transmitted to the saints, the heavenly sect, and the young martial artists, telling them to stay where they were and not move. After hearing this, those people did as they were told. After all, no one dared to joke around with their lives. Chapter 2769. The ancient creature in front of them was too powerful. They all stood there with solemn expressions. Although the other party had not attacked yet, they did not dare to be careless. If the other party attacked, they still had to be careful. Lin Xian called over all of Immortal Palace's people to his side. He lightly tapped them, a pained expression on his face. Immortal Palace had also lost more than half of their martial artists. Fortunately, although Peacock and the others were injured, their lives were not in danger for the time being. Looking around, Lin Xian felt that he had gained a great advantage. He had lost half of his martial artists, which was considered light. The Yi family and Gu family had suffered similar losses. However, the other sacred grounds and sects were in a miserable state. The better ones had lost 2/3 of their martial artists, leaving only 1/3 of their martial artists. The worse ones only had 1/10 of their martial artists left. Even those who survived were injured and in a sorry state. Lin Xian raised his head and looked at the intense battle in front of him. He frowned. He could not fight or provide support now, so he directly activated the great dragon sword soul in his body. He frantically absorbed the surrounding Tao of dragon aura. The aura here was too strong. Lin Xian did not care if the others were in the mood or if they had the courage. Anyway, he could absorb as much as he could. However, he did not make too much of a commotion and carefully absorb it. Roar! The ancient creature suddenly roared in a low voice. The aura on his body spread out again. A pair of cold eyes stared at Lin Xian. Obviously, he had noticed Lin Xian's actions. Lin Xian snorted coldly. The great dragon sword soul in his body roared and a dragon's roar sounded. This made the ancient creature even more confused. The Crimson Dragon said a few more words in dragon language. Only then did the ancient creature stop and not attack. Seeing this, the Crimson Dragon also absorbed the Tao of dragon aura. The others were shocked. However, at this moment, an earth-shattering sound suddenly came from the front, attracting everyone's attention. Including the ancient creature in front, they all turned their heads to look. Lin Xian raised his head while absorbing. Then, he was shocked. In front of him, the 10-meter-tall divine crystal suddenly cracked open. The ancient royal within, that tall violet figure, opened his eyes. His gaze turned into an evasive one, sweeping across the 9 heavens and 10 earths. In an instant, many of the elders below were penetrated by the gaze and nailed to the ground. "Oh no, he's resurrected!" The Crimson Dragon trembled, and Lin Xian, Leaf Dao Denier, the Grand Xia Imperial Prince, and the others all looked completely shocked. As for the sage lords and pontiffs, their scalps went numb. An archaic king had been resurrected. Damn it, he's too strong. Everyone be careful. Hurry up and use your saint weapon. The sacred leaders, sect leaders, and grand elders no longer dared to be careless. They gathered one after another and activated their saint weapons, sweeping out in all directions to resist the archaic king. Previously, they had guessed that the primordial king was very likely a sage, although the other party's aura and cultivation were very unclear. They did not know whether the other party was a saint or not. However, it was obvious that the other party was too powerful. This was far beyond their expectations. Even if they used their saint weapons, they could only contend with the other party. Damn it, this is definitely beyond the realm of invincible kings. Is he a saint or not? It's not clear, he didn't use a saint law at all. These sacred leaders and sect leaders were all stunned. After the other party appeared, his figure flashed and arrived in front of two Divine Wind Dynasty's royal elders. With a slap of his hand, the two royal elders were directly smashed into pieces. Then, he came in front of the myriad Buddhist sect monks and similarly waved his fist. He blew up 3 monks. It was too terrifying. The other party was simply the king of close combat. He did not use any laws at all and directly used his physical strength to kill in all directions. As soon as the purple Archean king appeared, the god crystals in the surroundings shattered as well. The Archean beasts opened their eyes and charged over. Damn it! The Yi family's patriarch roared and spat out a bronze cauldron, suppressing the surroundings. With a bang, a terrifying aura blasted the surrounding archaic creatures away. However, the violet archaic king was completely unaffected and directly charged over. With a clang, a palm slapped on the green cauldron, causing a shocking vibration. Everyone's scalps went numb, and they quickly retreated. Many elders vomited mouthfuls of blood. The sky collapsed, the earth cracked, and the space shattered. In the distance, Lin Xian and the others were also affected. Fortunately, they'd already retreated to an extremely far place earlier. Otherwise, if they were any closer, the sound wave just now would have torn them apart and killed them directly. Kill! The Dayan's sacred leader waved his divine sword, and a peerless sword light descended from the sky. This sword could kill any invincible king. However, the violet archaic king was fearless. He slapped the sacred sword with his bare hands, and his palm collided with the sacred sword. Boom! 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 The sacred sword trembled in the sky, and the archaic king was sent flying backward, smashing through the void. He roared repeatedly. This scene shocked everyone and made them happy at the same time. Great! The sacred weapon could suppress the other party. Use it quickly! In an instant, the Yin-Yang sect leader, Sacred Leader Thousand Thunder, Sacred Leader Thousand Beginnings, Sacred Leader Dao Yi, Sacred Leader Alcade, the Gu family, and the Yi family all used their sacred weapons. A terrifying aura surged into the sky and swept across the 9 heavens and 10 lands. However, the dangers in the surroundings were not only limited to the archaic king. Some of those archaic creatures had also used peerless treasures, but they were able to contend against these sacred weapons. Moreover, there was also the heavenly tree that had existed for 100,000 years. His attack was also very terrifying. Therefore, in an instant, the experts in the nest of 10,000 dragons all supported the archaic king. The archaic king roared, and the ground cracked open. A purple spear transformed into a purple dragon that instantly appeared in the sky and was grabbed by him. With a thrust of the spear, one of the grand elders of the 5 Elements Palace was killed. Pun! This spear pierced through the heart of the grand elder of the 5 Elements Palace. The 5 elements light on his body quickly dissipated. The long spear shook and directly blasted the Grand Elder into pieces. Damn it! The 5 elements sacred leader roared and activated the 5 elements pearl, releasing the energy of the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. It formed a terrifying light that charged forward to fight against the archaic king. However, the archaic king was too terrifying. Now that he had taken out a dragon-like purple spear, it was even more terrifying. Kill! An elder of the Yi clan let out a furious roar. He held a gigantic heaven-splitting axe in his hand and charged forward, engaging in a fierce battle with the immemorial king. Both of them were close combat experts and had strong physiques. Therefore, their battle was earth-shattering. All the experts were shocked. The Yi family was indeed a clan of the ancients. Their physiques were too strong. Ah! Roar! The two of them exchanged more than 100 blows. Suddenly, the archaic king roared and a purple light shot into the sky. His aura erupted once again. The surrounding Tao of Dragon aura quickly surged into his body. The long spear in his hand seemed to have come alive. It turned into a purple lightning bolt. Chapter 2770. The first spear sent the sky-splitting axe flying. The second spear pierced through the Yi family elder's forehead. Pft! The Yi family elder's head exploded, and his body fell to the ground. The Yi family experts roared crazily. One of their peerless elders was killed just like that. Even his soul power did not escape. Their eyes were bloodshot as they stared at the purple primordial king. The Yi family sacred leader snorted coldly as he activated the bronze cauldron and charged over. At the same time, the Gu family and Alcade realm experts made their moves. Li Xunxian stood in the void, his body surrounded by a biting cold blade light. Another flying dagger appeared in his hand. As soon as the flying knife appeared, the surroundings were filled with wails and cries. There was even a rain of blood. The terrifying scene caused the surrounding primordial creatures to tremble as if they were facing a great enemy. Many primordial creatures retreated. They had no choice. All the primordial creatures that were locked onto by Li Xunxian felt a fatal sense of danger. Li Xunxian did not attack these ordinary primordial creatures. His gaze was fixed on the primordial king who was fighting with the Gu family and Yi family. Li Xunxian raised his hand, and the flying knife at his fingertips flickered with a terrifying light. Even the purple primordial king in the distance raised his head, a terrifying light shooting out of his eyes. The other party's flying knife also threatened him. His body emitted tens of thousands of rays of light as his speed reached the extreme. He dodged in the sky while fighting the Yi family and Gu family sacred leaders at the same time. However, Li Xunxian did not make a move immediately. He stood in the void, accumulating power and waiting for a sure kill strike. This process was very long. As long as Li Xunxian did not attack with his flying knife, all the primordial creatures felt their bodies go numb as they felt a potential threat. This made them very uneasy. Buzz! Finally, Li Xunxian found an opportunity to attack. With a wave of his finger, the flying knife flew out. In an instant, wails and cries could be heard. The world lost its color as a terrifying sea of blood surged. This was a sure kill attack. Many primordial creatures were scared to the ground. In the distance, the primordial king's hair stood on end. After his uneasiness and anger, the purple light on his body shone from the sky. The purple spear in his hand was like a dragon as it danced quickly. At the same time, his speed reached the extreme. Buzz! An earth-shattering sound rang out as the primordial king roared. Purple blood burst forth, piercing through the void. A bloody hole appeared on his shoulder. A flying knife had pierced through his body. It hit! How terrifying! He was actually able to injure an archaic king! Cries of alarm rang out, and the ancient creatures roared anxiously. On the human side, the holy sovereigns, sect masters, and elders were all shocked. As expected of Xiao Li's flying dagger, his strength was not in vain. It was too frightening. Probably no one would be able to dodge this flying dagger skill. Even a primordial king with such a powerful physique was hit. Everyone was shocked. The Yi family's patriarch and the others seized this opportunity to attack like crazy. In the distance, Li Xunxian's eyes flickered as he sighed in his heart. This attack was aimed at the center of his opponent's eyebrows. But in the end, he only managed to hit his opponent's shoulder. It could be said that it was a little different from what he had imagined. One had to admit that this primordial king was extremely terrifying. In the distance, Lin Xian and the others exclaimed when they saw this scene. This saber strike was too shocking and too fast. They didn't see it at all. They only saw Li Xunxian waving his palm and the primordial king was injured. Lin Xian's pupils constricted. He had seen the previous scene through the heavenly secret divine eye. At this moment, in his mind, he was still slowing down and recalling. It was indeed a peerless saber strike. It was really terrifying. He guessed that even if it were other holy sovereigns, they probably wouldn't be able to dodge it. It was even possible that they would be killed in one move. Thinking of this, he sucked in a breath of cold air. Roar! The primordial king roared crazily, and the light on his body overflowed into the sky, quickly healing his wounds. His pair of cold eyes stared fixedly at Li Xunxian. Buzz's body turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed over quickly, wanting to kill the other party. Because a second flying dagger appeared in Li Xuanxian's hand. He had to get rid of this hidden danger. In the blink of an eye, the primordial king arrived near Li Xuanxian and stabbed out with the long spear in his hand. Li Xuanxian was like a floating immortal, floating in the air. He dodged the shot by a hair's breadth. At the same time, the second flying dagger in his hand was sent out. With a bang, another bloody hole appeared on the primordial king's body. This bloody hole was very close to his heart. It had almost pierced through his heart. The crowd was even more astonished upon seeing this. The primordial king's face was also gloomy. With a wave of his hand, the purple long spear in his hand turned into a dragon and rushed out. It charged towards Li Xuanxian. Li Xuanxian dodged again, but this time, the purple dragon followed him closely, giving him no chance to send out a third flying dagger. Without the threat of Shao Li's flying dagger, the primordial king once again went on a killing spree. Boom! The battle continued to erupt. Finally, a bolt of lightning flashed, and the Holy Lord was torn in half. His soul was caught by the primordial king and directly destroyed. Between heaven and earth, a rain of blood fell. The wings of the thunder god danced in the sky, but it had lost its luster. Holy Lord! Frantic shouts came one after another. The martial artists of the Thousand Thunders sacred land had all gone crazy. The elders screamed crazily. They realized that their sacred leader had been killed. Lin Xian and the others felt their scalps go numb when they saw this scene. It was over. A holy lord had fallen. This was an earth-shattering event. Although a holy lord had been injured before, he hadn't been killed. These holy lords were very powerful. Even if their bodies were split in half or torn into pieces, they could still recover. However, it was impossible now. The Holy Lord's soul had been directly destroyed. This could be said to be a fatal blow. There was no chance for him to revive. Sure enough, the Holy Lord's body fell from the sky, smashing the void and sinking the ground. This scene caused everyone to be alarmed. Those who had died before were all elders. But now, the Holy Lord had become the first Holy Lord to die. This was absolutely shocking. If news of this spread, the entire true spirit world would probably be shaken. After all, a Holy Lord was a true overlord. With a stomp of his foot, the entire world would tremble. But now, he had been mercilessly killed by the primordial king. The primordial king's body was covered in blood, but it wasn't his. It was the blood of the holy lords and elders. At this moment, he was like a demonic god, looking around with a cold gaze. After killing the holy lord, he attacked again. Not good. Hurry up and leave. Many holy lands and sects quickly retreated. They opened a door and prepared to teleport. However, as soon as the Taoist gates appeared in the sky, they were shattered by the peerless formations in the surroundings. Chapter 2771. No, they couldn't leave. How could this be? Some elders took out teleportation scrolls and activated the power of space to surround them, wanting to teleport them away. However, in an instant, another peerless array formation shattered the teleportation scrolls. Those who were about to leave fell from the sky. Everyone's face was pale. Oh no! Damn it, we can't leave! They were really panicking. Previously, they were willing to give it their all because they had trump cards, Tao gates, and teleportation scrolls. They could leave at any time. But now, they realized that their escape route had been sealed. There was no way to escape. This scene caused the faces of these powerhouses to change completely. Lowly humans, you shall all die here. The primordial king's soul released a terrifying divine thought that swept in all directions. A monstrous killing intent was emitted from his eyes. In the next moment, he raised his hands high, and the aura on his body surged. In the distance, an object flew over quickly. It was a giant dragon that danced in the sky. Its body gradually turned into a dragon saber. It was held in the hands of the primordial king. Buzz! A terrifying power erupted, and those sacred leaders and sect masters retreated frantically. "Oh no, a sage's weapon! He's going to use a sage's weapon! Stop him!" these people shouted frantically. Golden sword, yin yang mirror, great Tao treasure bottle, bronze cauldron. Everyone attacked crazily, especially the Yi family's patriarch, who activated the bronze cauldron with all his might. Boom! 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 In the sky, the terrifying dragon saber roared. The terrifying sound completely spread out, and the entire sky was boiling. Countless cracks appeared. A saber light could kill any powerhouse. Everyone was horrified by this scene. Lin Xian and the others were facing a great enemy. They realized that their bodies could not move. The sacred leaders and sect masters in front of them also had ugly expressions. "Hurry up and attack! Don't hold back!" These sacred leaders and sect masters activated the sage artifacts in their hands with all their might. The Yi family's patriarch gathered the elders of the Yi family. In front of them, the bronze cauldron floated up and down, flickering with a terrifying light. The Yi family's patriarch and the elders quickly performed hand seals and poured all the power in their bodies into the bronze cauldron. Boom! The bronze cauldron erupted with an extremely terrifying power. It was like a demonic mountain that suppressed the surroundings. The entire sky trembled. How terrifying! It had the power of the celestial dark cauldron. An expert exclaimed. The yin-yang mirror erupted with a brilliant light that threatened to engulf the entire world. Golden holy swords, great Tao treasured vases, and sages' weapons soared into the sky. He wanted to suppress the dragon knife together. The primordial king was simply too strong. Even though they were both sage weapons, the strength of the primordial king was still extremely strong. Thus, when he unleashed his saint's weapon, the power he unleashed was truly incomparably terrifying. It swept through everything. Although he was suppressed, he didn't fall behind. The sky-piercing god tree also launched an attack. Thousands of tree trunks fused with the surrounding Tao of dragon aura, turning into numerous gigantic dragons that began to attack the sacred leaders and sect masters. Kill Li Xunxian sent out the third flying knife, knocking away the purple long spear. Thus, at the same time, he met up with the Great Guardian and the others. Together, they formed a large seal. The four directions' great imprint continuously enlarged, releasing an endless aura. After receiving the support of so many unrivaled kings, the terrifying power became more and more intense, surging in all directions. A great battle broke out. So many sage weapons collided, erupting with unparalleled light. The entire world seemed to be about to be destroyed. Lin Xian and the others were sent flying by a violent force. They didn't know how many tens of thousands of miles they were sent flying. The weaker ones were killed by the energy. The stronger ones also vomited large mouthfuls of blood. Even Lin Xian's 9-yang divine body was shattered, with many cracks appearing on it. On the other side, Yi Wudao and Wuchen were the same. They were all injured. The Crimson Dragon, Murong Qingqing, and Xinjingqiu were also injured. Fortunately, everyone finally stopped. However, before they could catch their breath, another wave of shocking energy erupted in front of them. It was even more terrifying than the previous energy shockwaves. Not good. The expressions of the saints and elites changed. Lin Xian didn't say a word and directly sent out the black earth. All the people around him were stored inside. Yi Wudao also sent out a replica of the Celestial Emperor's cauldron. The Alcade Sage, the Grand Xia Prince, Wuchen, and the others all used their trump cards to protect the martial artists of their sacred grounds. In an instant, these people were sent flying again. The battle this time was too tragic. Lin Xian and the others were sent flying for millions of miles. They had no idea how the battle was going. They could only see rays of apocalyptic divine light dancing in the sky, and the terrifying sound of thunder kept ringing. 5 days passed. 10 days passed. 20 days passed. The battle lasted for a month and was still ongoing. Lin Xian, Yi Wudao, and the others were stunned. Only now did they know how terrifying these sacred leaders and sect masters were. One had to know that such a shocking battle consumed a lot of energy. Especially when he was using a saint weapon, the power was like flowing water, flowing away at an extremely fast speed. However, these sacred leaders and sect masters were actually able to fight for a month without weakening. It was truly terrifying. However, they weren't happy. Instead, their expressions became uglier. This was because they could feel that more and more powerhouses in the nest of 10,000 dragons were reviving. Besides the purple primordial king, another primordial king was revived on the 20th day. More primordial creatures were revived. A month later, a third primordial king was revived. The 3 primordial kings joined forces and shook the world. Fortunately, there were many sacred leaders and sect masters who came this time and brought many sage weapons. Otherwise, they would have been killed long ago. Even so, it was only a matter of time before they died. Because up until now, 5 sacred leaders and sect masters had already died. The number of elders who died was uncountable. There was nothing they could do. 3 primordial kings, a heavenly tree that had lived for 100,000 years, and countless primordial creatures. Together with the peerless formation, these sacred leaders couldn't resist at all. It was already very difficult for them to fight until now. However, these were only 3 primordial kings. Who knew how many powerhouses were buried in the nest of 10,000 dragons? And there were definitely existences more terrifying than the primordial kings. If such a powerhouse came out, all of their sacred leaders and sect masters would be finished. Even the people of the remote antiquity families were no exception. Sure enough, after another 10 days, an extremely terrifying sage aura suddenly emerged from the depths of the nest of 10,000 dragons. Countless laws danced in the sky, turning into dragons. It's over. A true sage has revived. The expressions of the Yi family patriarch, Queen Mother of the West, Li Xunxian, and the others completely changed. Although the previous 3 primordial kings were extremely terrifying, they didn't use any laws at all. They knew that these primordial kings weren't sages, but extremely terrifying invincible kings. But now, sage laws floated out from the depths. Only a true sage could use this kind of law. Chapter 2772. Needless to say, an ancient sage of the nest of 10,000 dragons was about to awaken. Then, they were definitely in danger. It's over. Are we all going to die here? The young disciples screamed, and the holy sons and geniuses also turned pale. Even the sacred leaders and sect masters had fallen, let alone them. They were only at the periphery of the war and hadn't been affected. If the ancient creatures noticed them, it would be difficult for them to resist. Lin Xian's face was also gloomy. He asked, "Rosalong, is there any other way?" The Crimson Dragon shook his head. "No, unless we can break into the nest of 10,000 dragons and send the news out so that the sages outside can take action. But we can't do that at all. Not to mention us, even those sacred leaders and sect masters with powerful treasures can't send the news out. I'm afraid this time, it's really over. But kid, don't worry, I can save your life no matter what." At this point, the Crimson Dragon's eyes lit up. "No matter what, Ben Wang is also a dragon. You have the great dragon sword soul. The 2 of us can use the dragon blood and dragon might to communicate with them. We can probably survive. As for the others, they are probably going to die here." "What? They're all going to die here?" As soon as these words came out, Lin Xian was shocked. Peacock, Hui Dao, and the others behind him were even more stunned. Murong Qingqing, Xinjingqiu, and the other great sex people were also pale, without a trace of blood. "No way!" Lin Xian's face was also ugly. Although not all of the sacred leaders and sect masters had come this time, at least half of the sacred leaders and sect masters had come. If these people were to fall here, it would truly be a shocking event. Other than the ancient war years, there had never been a time like this where half of the sacred leaders and sect masters had died at once. Could it be that the nest of 10,000 dragons is so terrifying? It can kill so many powerhouses before it's even born? If it really comes to the outside world, what kind of storm will it set off? I was too careless this time. The Crimson Dragon's face was also ugly. They originally thought that this was the burial ground of the dragon race. Even if it was dangerous, it was already a dead dragon. So what if he was strong? However, to their surprise, those dragons were not dead at all. Instead, they were merely sleeping. Now they were resurrected one by one. How were they supposed to fight? Even if a saint were to come, it would not be enough. No, I can't do this. I can't just sit here and wait for death. Lin Xian shook his head. He had to think of a way to spread the news. It was too dangerous. Although the Crimson Dragon said that they might survive, it was just a possibility. The two of them weren't from the nest of 10,000 dragons at all, especially him. He was just a human, and he had endless secrets. How could these powerhouses of the nest of 10,000 dragons let him off? Moreover, there was also the safety of Murong Qingqing and Xinjingqiu. Therefore, Lin Xian did not intend to sit and wait for death. He had to think of a way. What could he do? The Crimson Dragon shook its head. There's nothing we can do about it. None of our trump cards will work. Even our holy weapons won't work, let alone anything else. That might not necessarily be the case. Lin Xian's eyes lit up. Don't forget what I have. Are you saying that you want to use that thing? That's impossible. Although that thing is powerful, you're too weak now. Moreover, this thing needs strength to recover. If you were a saint, it might be possible. But now, it's impossible. The Crimson Dragon shook its head. He naturally knew what Lin Xian was talking about. What Lin Xian was talking about was naturally the Great Dragon Sword Soul in his body. The Great Dragon Sword Soul was an offensive saint technique. Its attack power was extremely terrifying. However, it had already lost too much power. Although Lin Xian had recovered so much, it was still not enough. It was impossible to break through the nest of 10,000 dragons. What if it's not my own power? Lin Xian's eyes erupted with a sharp light. There were so many Tao of Dragon auras here, and so many powerhouses working together to stimulate the Great Dragon Sword Soul. They could definitely break through the nest of 10,000 dragons. As long as the nest of 10,000 dragons was broken, the people outside would definitely sense the information here. At that time, we'll be saved. Otherwise, we'll all die here. Kid, think carefully. If you do this, you'll undoubtedly expose your secret. The Crimson Dragon stared at Lin Xian. Lin Xian said, It's nothing. Not for anything else, but for ourselves. For Qingqing and Qiu'er, so be it. All right, I can only give it a try. Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon left the Black Earth. They appeared outside again. Seeing Lin Xian come out, Yi Wudao, Wuchen, the Alcade Saint, and the others were puzzled. What was going on? What was Lin Xian doing? Just as they were about to ask, they saw Lin Xian walking forward. The 9-yang divine body bloomed with light, resisting the terrifying air waves. At the same time, he gathered his strength and let out a loud voice. Everyone help me. I have a way to break through the nest of 10,000 dragons. His voice was like thunder, spreading clearly in all directions. What? Nearby, Yi Wudao, Wuchen, the Alcade Saint, the Prince of Great Xia, and the other saints were all stunned. They didn't dare to believe what Lin Xian said. The Alcade Saint's face darkened as he snorted coldly. What kind of joke was this? So many sect masters couldn't do anything, how could you? However, Lin Xian ignored him and transmitted his voice again. In front, the sect masters who were fighting with the archaic king also heard this voice. They also frowned, and their faces were solemn. What was Lin Xian doing? Although the other party was the master of Immortal Palace, at this juncture, the other party was too weak. Did he want to show off? He was too inexperienced. Li Xunxian, the Great Protector, and the other powerhouses of Immortal Palace changed their expressions. Could it be that the Palace Master had a way? I don't know. The Great Protector shook his head, but with my understanding of the Palace Master, he wouldn't say anything. The Palace Master wouldn't speak out of thin air. Although everything he did was inconceivable, it was all successful in the end. Hearing this, Li Xunxian was surprised. He nodded. All right, then I'll believe in the Palace Master. All powerhouses of Immortal Palace, listen up, follow me back and assist the Palace Master. With an order, all the powerhouses of Immortal Palace flew back and began to leave the battle. They gathered towards Lin Xian. Damn it, did the people of Immortal Palace want to escape? When the other great sects of the Holy Land saw this scene, they were all furious. The Queen Mother, the Yi family's patriarch, the Gu family's patriarch, the Emperor of Great Xia, and the others looked at each other, their eyes flickering. What should they do? Palace Master Ling was a mysterious person. Perhaps he really had a way. The Queen Mother said in a deep voice. Indeed, young geniuses have endless secrets on them. Even I can't see through them. Perhaps he really has a way. These holy lords quickly transmitted their voices. At the same time, they also retreated frantically. Not only that, the Yi family's patriarch said to the surroundings that perhaps there really was a way to leave the nest of 10,000 dragons. Chapter 2773. What? Seeing this scene, the other sacred leaders and sect masters were all stunned. The supreme elders were also at a loss. What was going on? Could it be that the Queen Mother, the Yi family's patriarch, and the others really had to believe that Lin Xian? He was just a brat. Even if he was conferred the title of Middle Emperor, he was only from the younger generation. In such a war, the other party probably wouldn't even be able to withstand a single energy shockwave. What was there to talk about? Not to mention breaking into the nest of 10,000 dragons. Therefore, these sacred leaders and sect masters didn't believe it at all. Behind them, the saints and geniuses were also discussing. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. He discovered that Li Xuanxian had arrived with the people from the Immortal Palace. The Queen Mother, the Yi family's patriarch, and the others also gathered here. As long as the sacred leaders believed in him, it would be fine. He believed that in the end, these people would definitely lend him a hand with all their might. Li Xuanxian, the head guardian, and the other powerhouses descended and protected Lin Xian. At the same time, Li Xuanxian asked, Hall Master, what can we do? Elderly, head guardian, I'm going to take out my trump card. You must protect me well. Lin Xian smiled and shrugged. Hearing this, the eyes of Li Xuanxian, the head guardian, and the others lit up. As expected, their hall master still had a trump card. Li Xuanxian said, Don't worry, hall master. With us here, we definitely won't let anyone hurt you. Hopefully. Lin Xian sighed in his heart. He knew that he might be fine now, but what about in the future? After he went out, he would probably be in danger. After all, he was using the great dragon sword soul. Moreover, he was doing it in front of so many sacred leaders and living fossils. As long as one person discovered the great dragon sword soul, he would probably be targeted by countless powerhouses in the future. However, Lin Xian couldn't care less. Putting aside whether he wanted the lives of those sacred leaders and sect masters, he was doing this to save himself. Therefore, he had to give it his all. He would talk about the future later. Moreover, he guessed that after the revival of the nest of 10,000 dragons this time, the continent wouldn't be too peaceful in the future. Winds and clouds would surge, and perhaps a world-shaking battle would break out. At that time, it was hard to say if the sacred leaders and sect masters would care about him. Thinking of this, Lin Xian's eyes shone with a cold light. With a wave of his hands, the great dragon sword soul rushed out of his body. But the great dragon sword soul transformed into a dragon-shaped sword shadow in front of him, exuding a mysterious aura. What is this? Li Xuanxian, great protector, and Immortal Palace's unmatched experts were all shocked. They fixed their eyes on the dragon-shaped sword shadow. Leaf Daodenier, the Grand Xia Crown Prince, the Alcade Sage Sun, and the others all felt their eyelids twitch. Their faces were also filled with shock as they watched. At this moment, countless eyes were fixed on the great dragon sword spirit. What was that? This wasn't the first time Lin Xian had used this sword shadow. They discussed animatedly. They had seen the dragon-shaped sword shadow before, but it was their first time seeing it at such a close distance. The green dragon-shaped sword shadow floated in the void. The dragon head and sword body were lifelike, and it carried a terrifying pressure. It was like a giant dragon. Especially Li Xuanxian and the others, they were extremely shocked. They felt as if this was a sleeping giant dragon that possessed endless energy. Once it fully erupted, it would kill them all. This sense of crisis was even more terrifying than when they faced the purple archaic king. What was that? They raised their heads and looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian didn't say anything. Instead, he urged the great dragon sword soul with all his strength. Roar! A loud dragon roar sounded. The great dragon sword soul erupted, turning into a giant dragon shadow that soared into the sky. At the same time, the surrounding dragon aura was crazily absorbed by the great dragon sword soul. A terrifying power erupted and swept in all directions. What a terrifying aura! These people were terrified. This aura was too fierce. It surprised Yu Wudao, the Alcade sage, and the others. Even Li Xuanxian, the chief guardian, and the others frowned. One had to know that Lin Xian was only an unparalleled almighty right now. For him to be able to unleash a power that could threaten them was simply too shocking. How many levels did he have to jump to be able to do this? He was definitely a peerless genius. He really had the bearing of a young great emperor. This scene also attracted the attention of the sacred leaders and sect masters. However, those sacred leaders and sect masters frowned. Lin Xian was indeed impressive, but with his current strength, how could he possibly break through the nest of 10,000 dragons? What a fool's dream! They sneered disdainfully because this power couldn't compare to the sacred weapons in their hands. However, even they couldn't break through the nest of 10,000 dragons with their sacred weapons. Li Xuanxian, the chief guardian, and the others naturally knew this, so these invincible kings all looked at Lin Xian with doubt. Lin Xian said to them, "Everyone, attack and inject your power into the dragon sword soul." "So that's how it works?" Everyone was shocked, but Li Xuanxian and the others were extremely puzzled. They had used this method before, which was to activate the sacred weapons in their hands together. For example, the clear sky seal in their hands was activated by a group of invincible kings. Could it be that the potential of this sword shadow was even more terrifying than a sacred weapon? They didn't know, but they still did as they were told. These invincible kings all released their power and injected it into the dragon-shaped sword shadow in front of them. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. "Rosalong, you guys should attack as well." At the same time, the Crimson Dragon, Xinjingqiu, Murong Qingqing, Peacock, and Immortal Palace's Jade Pool Zixia all attacked. Lin Xian turned his head and looked around. "Brother Yi, the princes of the Grand Xia, everyone attack together. If you want to live, attack with all your strength. Otherwise, everyone will die here." Hearing this, the expressions of the sacred leaders turned ugly. However, they still decided to give it a try. Because Yi Wudao and the others had already attacked, the remaining people also attacked. In an instant, these young disciples all released their power and injected it into the great dragon sword soul. With so many people's power, the great dragon sword soul became even stronger. Roar! A loud dragon roar resounded through the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The primordial creatures and the 3 primordial kings who were fighting in front of them all frowned. They didn't attack again. Instead, they looked behind them in shock. What was that? Dragon? The primordial creatures cried out in alarm. They were all speaking the primordial language. Although the sacred leaders and sect leaders couldn't understand it, they could still deduce it based on the fluctuations of their souls. The 3 primordial kings' eyes flashed, and a biting cold light burst out from their eyes as they stared at the sword shadow in the distance. They roared and wanted to charge over. "Stop them!" The Yi family head, Queen Mother of the West, and the others roared. They quickly attacked and stopped the 3 primordial kings. At the same time, they shouted coldly again and quickly attacked, injecting their power into the dragon shadow. Chapter 2774. What exactly is that kid's weapon? The other sacred leaders, sect masters, and elders were also extremely shocked. To be able to make a primordial king so irritable and uneasy, the weapon in the other party's hand must be very terrifying. Could it be even more terrifying than a sage's weapon? These people did not know. However, they still sent out waves of energy and poured it into the sword. The dragon sword soul's power also suddenly erupted when it received the energy. After all, it was originally an offensive saint technique, but it required a huge amount of energy. Now that it had so much energy to provide, its power also increased exponentially. Soon, it reached the level of a sacred weapon. Waves of sharp sword chi made everyone tremble. The power of this sword shadow was actually not weaker than a sacred weapon. What exactly is it? Could it be a sacred weapon too? These people were extremely shocked. No, why do I feel that it has surpassed a sacred weapon? Heavens, what exactly is this? As more and more sacred leaders, sect masters, and grand elders poured their energy into the dragon sword soul, the dragon sword soul became even more dazzling. The great dragon sword soul emitted an even brighter light. At this moment, it was truly like a peerless divine sword. It could destroy everything. The bodies of those primordial creatures trembled, and they could not help but want to kneel down. This was because the peerless sword shadow in front of them, in addition to its terrifying aura, also emitted an extremely heavy dragon's might. This dragon's might made the three primordial kings' expressions change. Their bodies bloomed with light as they tried their best to resist. Buzz Lin Xian controlled the dragon sword soul and slashed out. Between heaven and earth, a sword light slashed forward. With a bang, a primordial king was sent flying. Bang! The primordial king was split in half, and blood flowed wildly, dyeing the sky red. Heavens! This scene made everyone exclaim. The sacred leaders and sect masters also felt their scalps go numb in shock. They had fought for so long, but they had not seriously injured a primordial king. The other party only swung a sword shadow and directly split a primordial king's body in half. This method was heaven-defying. For a moment, everyone looked at Lin Xian. Is this kid still human? Why do I feel that his trump card is more powerful than ours? Damn it, is he really just a young man? These people are crazy. Which one of these patriarchs had not lived for countless years and experienced countless battles? What kind of genius had they not seen before? However, at that moment, they looked at Lin Xian with disbelief. Could it be that this kid really had the disposition of a great emperor? Perhaps even a young great emperor was only at this level. What exactly was this dragon shadow? These people discussed animatedly. Of course, they didn't forget to continue pouring in energy. That was because they could tell that the great dragon sword soul required an enormous amount of energy. Ah, roar! These sacred leaders and sect masters had underestimated the great dragon sword soul. The archaic creature in front of him roared crazily. Its body fell down without healing. The other two Archean kings also roared, shaking the clouds in the sky. One of their companions, an archaic king, was killed by a single sword strike. Even his soul had been shattered. There was no way he could be revived. The astonishment caused by this scene was no less than the uproar caused by the death of sacred ruler 10,000 Lightning. These ancient lifeforms had all gone mad. Their eyes widened in disbelief. What was going on? Not to mention these archaic kings and ancient lifeforms, even the sacred leaders, sect masters, and elders on the human side were stunned. Their minds were blank. At their level, especially the archaic kings, even if their bodies were shattered, even if there was only a drop of blood, they could probably be reborn. Unless their souls were directly destroyed, they couldn't be revived. For example, sacred ruler 10,000 Lightning's soul was directly destroyed by the archaic Wang family. That was why he died. It was the same for the other sacred rulers. But now, could it be that this archaic king's soul was also killed by a single sword strike? Heavens, what kind of sword chi was this? So terrifying? Everyone was terrified. Now they knew why Lin Xian said that there was a way to break the nest of 10,000 dragons. If they went crazy and desperately poured in their energy to push this dragon shadow with all their might, they might really be able to break the nest of 10,000 dragons. Thinking of this, these sacred leaders and sect masters were extremely excited. The elders of the sacred grounds were even more excited, as if they had been injected with stimulants. The Yi family patriarch, Queen Mother of the West, and the others were even more surprised. This young man had too many secrets on him. Especially the Yi family patriarch, the Gu family patriarch, and the supreme elders, their eyes flickered. Why did it feel like this thing was the same as the legendary thing? No way, are you talking about that thing? How many tens of thousands of years has it not appeared? How could he have it? That might not be the case. The nest of 10,000 dragons had not appeared for many years, but it had revived now. It wasn't impossible for this kid to have that thing. These sacred leaders and supreme elders discussed animatedly with a strange light in their eyes. Even Li Xuanxian and the Great Guardian had a thought in their hearts. They thought of a legendary thing, but they weren't too sure. And now, they didn't have time to think too much because the archaic creatures in front of them had erupted again. The two archaic kings activated their sacred weapons crazily and charged over, wanting to intercept Lin Xian and the dragon-shaped sword shadow in the sky. Lin Xian took a deep breath, and his body shone brightly. He was like a peerless martial god as he waved the dragon-shaped sword shadow. The two swords slashed out, sending the two archaic kings flying. Wherever it passed, the bodies of the ancient creatures in the surroundings would explode and turn into a bloody mist, no longer existing. Nothing could stop his sword. Was this the power of the great dragon's sword so? How terrifying! Lin Xian was also extremely shocked. He knew that as long as he continued to cultivate, his strength would increase, and one day, he wouldn't need the power of these sacred leaders and sect masters. He would be able to erupt with such power alone. Thinking of this, he was extremely excited and eager to increase his cultivation strength. In the next moment, a sharp light appeared in his eyes as he raised his head to look at the endless void. In the sky, countless dragon-shaped auras surged, turning into rolling thunderclouds that covered the sky. Lin Xian snorted coldly, waved the dragon-shaped sword shadow, and slashed upwards. With a slash of the sword, heaven and earth split open, colliding with the peerless array formation in the sky, forming a world-destroying light. Rumble! The sky collapsed and the earth cracked, the earth shook, and the endless dragon veins collapsed. This attack could be said to be terrifying. However, Lin Xian frowned. It blocked. The peerless array formation of the nest of 10,000 dragons actually blocked the attack of the great dragon sword soul. Heavens, this was too unbelievable. Damn it, what kind of array formation did the nest of 10,000 dragons set up? It was actually so terrifying. The sacred leaders and elders all screamed because they discovered that the power of the great dragon's sword soul had actually surpassed that of a sacred weapon, and could easily kill an archaic king. But even so, they were still unable to break the array formation here. This really shocked them. No wonder they couldn't open it with the sacred weapons in their hands previously. It was too terrifying. It was definitely set up by the supreme powerhouses of the nest of 10,000 dragons. Chapter 2775. Not enough, the power is not enough. Hurry up and input more. Don't hold back at all. Lin Xian shouted again. He knew that these sacred leaders and sect masters did not pour all of their power into the sword. Indeed, these sacred leaders and sect masters were holding back. Lin Xian floated in the air. Even though he was young, he was like an unparalleled king that circled the area. Everyone, could it be that you really want to die here? If you open the nest of 10,000 dragons, everyone will have a way to survive. Otherwise, you will all die with them. This time, he didn't hold back. Even when facing these sacred leaders and sect masters, his voice was still cold. Hearing this, the sacred leaders and sect masters' faces darkened. They had never been lectured by a junior like this before. However, what the other party said was indeed the truth. Let's fight with all our might. The Yi clan master took a deep breath. The Queen Mother of the West also nodded. The others also did the same. Boom! 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 The sacred leaders and sect masters' bodies bloomed with light as they erupted with power once again. However, at this moment, the distant sky was pierced through. Dozens of divine lights flew over and directly killed some of the elders. Not good, they attacked. Damn it, hurry up and input energy. The expressions of these sacred leaders changed. They didn't dare to delay any longer and crazily poured their energy into the dragon's shadow. This was because they realized that the sacred might in the distance was getting stronger and stronger. It was obvious that the sacred might of the primordial royal family was about to awaken. If he really awakened, even if they had the dragon-shaped sword shadow, it would be difficult for them to resist. After all, a true sacred might was an existence that transcended heaven and earth. Boom! Boom! The sacred leaders and sect masters and grand elders poured their energy into the dragon's shadow as if they had gone crazy. The great dragon sword soul erupted once again. This time, its power rose rapidly. Lin Xian found it difficult to swing it. However, he still roared and swung it with all his might. At this moment, he seemed to have merged with the great dragon's sword. With a swing of his sword, he sent all the divine chains of order and the sky flying. At the same time, he slashed at the peerless formation in the sky again. Today's shocking collision was accompanied by a world-destroying divine light. This time, even the exceptional formation began to tremble, and cracks began to appear on it. Rays of light burst out. Great! The peerless formation was broken. One more strike, and the formation would be broken. The sacred leaders and sect masters cried out crazily. The young disciples also cried out in alarm. This is great! As long as they could break it open, the experts outside would be able to come in. Then, they would be able to leave alive. Many people were moved to tears. In the distance, an even more terrifying creature appeared, erupting like a volcano. The entire sky trembled as it was enveloped by a fiery red light. Not good, that saint has probably already walked out of the frozen divine crystal. One of the Yaoguang's sacred land's supreme elders' expression changed. But the expressions of these holy lords and grand elders changed drastically. This was because a figure had appeared in the void above. It was an indifferent person. This person had dragon scales on his body, and divine chains of laws surrounded him. He was like an immortal king, looking down on the common people. That aura caused everyone to tremble. The young disciples immediately knelt on the ground, unable to raise their heads. Even the elders were trembling in fear. Not good! Those sacred lords activated their sacred weapons with all their might to resist this pressure. A sage, he was a sage. A saint was looking down at them. Was he really going to die here today? Damn it, he was so close to being able to split open the nest of 10,000 dragons. These people's faces were filled with despair. Lin Xian's pupils constricted, and his face turned pale without a trace of blood. A saint, this was a true saint. Even if he was staring at them, these people felt as if they had fallen into a 10,000-year-old ice cave. Their entire bodies tensed up, and they couldn't move at all. So what if he was a saint? Kill! Lin Xian roared angrily. He waved his sword and quickly charged over. The great dragon sword soul roared. It drew a terrifying dragon in the sky and slashed forward. When the saint in the sky saw this scene, he snorted coldly and struck out with his palm. A huge palm that blotted out the sky grabbed forward as if it wanted to capture the great dragon sword soul. With a swoosh, it grabbed the great dragon sword soul. Like an immortal rope, it directly enveloped the great dragon sword soul. Great, he caught it! The primordial creatures cheered wildly. The primordial kings also sneered. They actually dared to fight against their saint. They really didn't know what was good for them. It was over. Had they been subdued? On the side of the human race, the faces of the saint lords and elders turned pale. Their faces were filled with despair. Some even wanted to risk their lives and use their saint weapons again. But at this moment, there was a change in front. A huge crack appeared in the sky. The terrifying palm suddenly collapsed. A dragon's roar sounded, and a terrifying sword light soared into the sky. It was slashed open. The great dragon sword soul was incomparably powerful. It slashed open the saint's palm. The huge palm in the sky turned into dragon energy and dissipated into thin air. Everyone was shocked by this scene. The Taiga kings were stunned. The human saint lords and sect masters were also in disbelief. This sword soul was too terrifying. Although it had gathered the power of all of them, it was still able to contend against the saints' nomological laws. It was really surprising. I will definitely be able to break through the 10,000 dragons' suppression, Lin Xian roared. The saint lords and sect masters frantically poured their power into the sword soul. The sword soul continued to erupt, turning into countless dragon shadows that soared into the sky. With a boom, this time, he directly smashed into the peerless array formation and broke it. Endless mountains rose and rolled in the Qiling Mountains. Many people gathered here. They knew that this was the nest of 10,000 dragons. These people continued to rush over. Of course, there were also cultivators from the Holy Land and the great sects guarding this place to prevent anyone from destroying it. Suddenly, the entire Qiling Mountains trembled violently. The dragon veins within millions of miles rumbled. The endless mountains split open, the trees collapsed, and a terrifying crack appeared on the ground. The clouds in the sky were scattered. What was going on? What happened? Stop! The expressions of the cultivators from the Holy Land and the great sects changed. Damn it, could it be that some shocking change had happened in the nest of 10,000 dragons? They soared into the sky. The surrounding cultivators who had rushed over were so frightened that their faces turned pale. They retreated one after another. Just as they left, there was a loud roar. The ground split open, and a dragon vein was severed. A sword light shot out from the ground, turning into a huge dragon that roared in all directions. At this moment, everyone within a radius of millions of miles was sensed. After this dragon shadow, roars sounded one after another, turning into rolling thunderclouds that rushed into the sky and spread in all directions. Immediately after, everyone saw countless lights flickering in the huge crack, turning into dao doors and spaces. They spread in all directions. This was the aura of the holy lords and sect masters. Damn it, what exactly happened to the 10,000 dragons' annihilation? It actually made these holy lords and sect masters start to call for help. That's right, this dragon shadow was the great dragon sword soul. This time, Lin Xian controlled the great dragon sword soul and finally pierced through the sky. He poked a hole in the nest of 10,000 dragons. Those holy lords and sect masters immediately sent out distress signals. However, their faces were incomparably pale. Because the saint in the nest of 10,000 dragons had made his move again. Another palm stretched out, covering the sky and the earth. The palm carried terrifying divine chains of order that pierced through the void. These were the laws of heaven and earth. In an instant, the void around them was frozen. These people couldn't move, and their faces were filled with fear. Only Lin Xian and those holy lords with holy weapons could still resist. The others were all trembling. In the sky, countless laws descended along with the palm, wanting to kill all of these people. Chapter 2776. However, at this moment, the void split open and a fist blasted over. It also carried the laws and the divine chains of order as it collided with the saint's palm. Boom! 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 The divine chains of order danced in the sky. A terrifying saint's might was vast and mighty, and everyone was sent flying. It was a saint had made a move. Great, our saint has arrived. On the side of the human race, these sect masters were ecstatic. Sure enough, an old figure appeared in the sky once again. This was the supreme saint of the great Xia dynasty. After he appeared, he immediately blocked the saint of the nest of 10,000 dragons. Moreover, his other palm waved, enveloping Lin Xian and all the surrounding human warriors and sending them out of the nest of 10,000 dragons. It's too dangerous here. You guys go out first. The old voice sounded. Indeed, in a battle between saints, any random law would be able to kill them. It was indeed not suitable for them to watch the battle here. the world spun. Lin Xian and the others were wrapped by the palm and instantly arrived high in the sky. They came out, they finally came out. Looking at the nest of 10,000 dragons below, they felt as if a lifetime had passed. They didn't expect that the exploration of the nest of 10,000 dragons this time would be so dangerous. These sect masters and heavenly glue almost all died inside. Thinking about it, they were really scared. Many people screamed crazily, feeling as if they had survived a disaster. Lin Xian also heaved a sigh of relief. Then, their expressions changed drastically. Retreat, retreat quickly. These people retreated crazily. This was because another aura came from the nest of 10,000 dragons. A power that belonged to a saint swept through the surroundings. Needless to say, the two saints inside had already fought. Human saints, do you really think that you can contend against our nest of 10,000 dragons? An angry roar sounded. Then, the three saints might in the nest of 10,000 dragons appeared. The saint of the nest of 10,000 dragons had awakened again. The expressions of the powerhouses of the great Xia dynasty changed. Those elders were even more shocked. 2 against 1, their elders were in danger. Don't worry, our saints are coming soon. The people of the Yi and Gu families said one after another. Sure enough, the void split open and figures appeared one after another, quickly entering the nest of 10,000 dragons below. At this moment, the world was in an uproar. Everyone sensed a thick saint's might coming from underground. Oh heavens, the birth of a saint, is there going to be a big change? Something must have happened to the nest of 10,000 dragons. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many saints. The empires and sacred grounds in Zhongzhou were all discussing this. Their sect master and sacred master had brought people to the nest of 10,000 dragons. Something must have really happened. Not only the middle ground state, but the sacred grounds and sects of the other 4 continents also activated supreme spell formations. Either they were teleported over, or they were watching from afar using their immense magic power. At this moment, the gazes of everyone in the quintessential world were focused on the nest of 10,000 dragons. Ancestor, there's an immortal divine herb in there. Many sacred leaders and sect masters quickly transmitted messages to the sages of their sacred grounds. If they could bring back the immortal god medicine, then they would really be rich. Several figures descended upon the nest of 10,000 dragons. There was also an even more terrifying aura awakening inside, making it so that no one could stay within a radius of 10 million miles. These warriors quickly rose into the air and flew into the distance. Lin Xian and the others used the teleportation platform to teleport away. Did the old palace master not come? Li Xuanxian and the others retreated to a safe distance and frowned. What was going on? They had sent out several messages, so the old palace master should have known. But why hadn't he appeared yet? Forget it, we don't have to care about such things. Thinking about the matter of the Yuhua immortal robe. Indeed, many people fought over the Yuhua immortal robe last time. In the end, Xia Jiuyo made a move at the critical moment and directly snatched it away. Perhaps, the other party planned to do the same this time. Therefore, Lin Xian and the others all settled down and waited carefully. Ahead, sage might filled the air, and laws danced in the air. It was a scene of destruction. One could imagine that a shocking battle had definitely happened in the nest of 10,000 dragons. Half a day later, an earth-shattering roar resounded through the clouds. Countless voids shattered. Even thousands of miles away, Lin Xian and the others felt their blood boil. Many of them directly vomited blood. Damn it, what kind of roar was this? An even more terrifying existence had revived. They retreated in horror. In the nest of 10,000 dragons, the human sages turned into streams of light and appeared. They tore through the void and quickly left. There was even sage blood floating in the sky. A drop of sage blood crushed the heavens, turning into a monstrous sea of blood that enveloped a radius of millions of miles. Let's go! The sage of the great Xia dynasty instantly appeared near the disciples of the great Xia dynasty. With a wave of his hand, he took away all the people of the great Xia dynasty. Apart from him, the Yi family, Gu family, Jade Lake, and the other sages who came all took their disciples away. When the others saw this scene, they were even more terrified. What happened? Why did these sages retreat? Why was there still sage blood floating in the sky? What kind of existence had revived? They didn't dare to imagine. However, they weren't stupid. They quickly tore through the void and opened the Tao gate to teleport. Let's go too! Li Xunxian opened the scroll. The power of space wrapped Lin Xian and the others and they disappeared into the void. Soon, they returned to the immortal palace. All the holy lands and sects had retreated. After returning, they all inquired about the news. Elder, what exactly is going on? The Yi family patriarch, Yi Wudao, and the others stood there and asked. An old man stood in front of them. He was naturally the sage of the Yi family. His expression was incomparably solemn. Something big had happened. Recently, he warned the disciples of the family not to go out recklessly. Gather all the resources we have outside and bring them to the family. The family will enter a state of alert, and ensure that there are enough resources to be able to activate the extreme Tao weapon, the Celestial Emperor Cauldron, at any time. What? Hearing this, the Yi family patriarch's eyes widened in disbelief. Yi Wudao and the other elders and disciples of the Yi family were all stunned. Activate the Celestial Emperor Cauldron at any time? That was an extreme Tao weapon! What exactly happened? It actually made a sage say such serious words. It wasn't just the Yi family, the Gu family, the Grand Xia dynasty, the Myriad Buddha Temple, and all the other sages, without exception, all warned their disciples and descendants. At the same time, they asked their holy lands and families to be on high alert and activate the Peerless Formation. Gather resources and prepare to activate the extreme Tao weapon at any time. The Yi family, the Gu family patriarch, the emperor of the Grand Xia dynasty, and the sect masters frantically asked what had happened. Those sages shook their heads and sighed. Chaos was coming. The ancient royal family and the nest of 10,000 dragons might fully revive. Especially the dragon race, they would definitely be the first to revive. At that time, they might fall into a battle for supremacy. The dragon race and the ancient royal family would all revive. The sect masters were shocked. The disciples of the various holy lands and sects also went crazy. These were all legendary existences. Could it be that at this moment, they were really going to rule the world again? They had only read about the 10,000 feet race in ancient books. But after experiencing what happened in the nest of 10,000 dragons, they knew that these ancient races were definitely terrifying. They couldn't be underestimated. If they came out together, the world would be in chaos. Could it be that we really poked a hole in the sky? The Yi family patriarch's expression was ugly. The Queen Mother's expression was solemn. At this moment, all the sect masters were filled with regret. Perhaps they really shouldn't have opened the nest of 10,000 dragons. Chapter 2777. When Lin Xian heard this news, he was also stunned. The 10,000 ancient races were about to fully revive. Perhaps the entire world would enter the ancient era's struggle for hegemony. This scene left him dazed. In Immortal Palace, Li Xunhuan, the chief protector, and the other elders and powerhouses were also silent. The Crimson Dragon sucked in a cold breath. Damn, how could this be? Could it be that those things in the nest of 10,000 dragons were really going to fully revive? He was from the dragon race himself, so he naturally knew how shocking and threatening the revival of the other dragon race members would be. Moreover, this time, it seemed that it wasn't just the dragon race bloodline. It was very likely that the other ancient royal races were going to revive as well. This was going to pierce through the heavens. The corner of Lin Xian's mouth twitched. Originally, he was overjoyed because he received the news of the nest of 10,000 dragons. Before entering the nest of 10,000 dragons, he believed that this would be a heaven-defying journey. He would obtain a heaven-defying treasure. But who would have thought that such a change would happen? This time, it was probably not just his own matter, but the entire world. Li Xunxian, the chief protector, and the others hurriedly looked for the old palace master, Xia Jiuyu. However, Xia Jiuyo didn't seem to be around. However, he did leave behind a scroll, which contained some instructions. Li Xuanxian and the others were shocked after reading it. Lin Xian took the scroll with a solemn expression. Soon, he gathered the powerhouses of Immortal Palace and said in a deep voice, "From today onwards, Immortal Palace will enter a state of war alert. Gather all the resources we can use and ensure that all the formations are unimpeded and can be activated at any time. At the same time, summon our disciples outside." Lin Xian did the same as the other Holy Lands. They knew that the true danger was about to arrive. Those factions and families that didn't enter the nest of 10,000 dragons were extremely surprised. They all asked what exactly happened in the nest of 10,000 dragons. They inquired from many sides. When they learned that countless disciples had died in the nest of 10,000 dragons, and even the elders and holy lords had fallen, these people were stunned. What? Even the holy lords had fallen? Heavens, what exactly happened? These people were extremely shocked. The sacred leader was such a terrifying existence, but he had actually fallen in the nest of 10,000 dragons. More than one! According to the statistics, a total of 9 sacred leaders and sect leaders had died, and more than 50 elders had died. It could be said that all the sacred grounds and sects had suffered heavy losses. This news shocked the entire world. So many terrifying powerhouses had fallen in the nest of 10,000 dragons. It was truly shocking. However, what shocked and frightened them even more was yet to come. At least 6 sages had descended upon the nest of 10,000 dragons and fought with the supreme existences within. In the end, they had fled in panic. Furthermore, many sacred grounds and sects had already begun to seal their mountains. This scene terrified all the martial artists in the world. Saints were godlike existences. They had transcended the heavens and earth, and could use the power of the laws of nature. Such terrifying existences, a total of 6 of them, were actually scared away by the things in the nest of 10,000 dragons. What exactly was in the nest of 10,000 dragons? It was even rumored that a saint had been injured, and his saint blood had dyed the sky red. In the end, news spread from the clan of the ancients. The world was shocked. The 10,000 archaic clans were reviving. These words were like a mountain that pressed down on everyone's hearts, making them unable to breathe. These powerful families in the world were extremely shocked. They knew what these words meant. For a moment, these people's faces were filled with despair. Although the other martial artists didn't quite understand, they knew after asking around a little. The existences in the nest of 10,000 dragons had existed for countless years. In fact, they might even be from an era even older than the ancient times. These were all powerful races that were extremely terrifying. At this moment, they were about to revive in their world and compete with the human race. This was definitely a disaster. No wonder those sacred grounds and sects wanted to seal their mountains. Following this, the people would probably be plunged into misery and suffering. The world was wailing, and everyone was in despair. Just as everyone in the true spirit world was in a state of panic, the atmosphere in the nest of 10,000 dragons was incomparably solemn. In the nest of 10,000 dragons, countless auras of the Tao of dragons surged as fiend godlike figures stood there. Ever since the 6 sages had left, the powerhouses inside had all broken out of the ground from the divine crystals. These were all primordial creatures of all shapes and sizes. Some were in human form, and some were in the form of demonic beasts. They all emitted an incomparably terrifying aura. At this moment, the few primordial kings from before stood very respectfully. In front of them, there were a few figures surrounded by laws. They were the sages of their primordial royal families. In front of these sages, there was a piece of divine crystal that was about 2 meters tall. Sealed within the divine crystal was an old man. He was very old. The pair of dragon horns on his head were about to fall off. This old man wasn't completely sealed within the divine crystal. Half of his right arm poked out of the divine crystal. The aura he emitted was as deep as the sea. It was extremely terrifying. Even the few sages in front of him were extremely respectful towards the old man. The terrifying old man had his back to everyone. His gaze was fixed on the golden egg on the five-colored altar in front of him. This golden egg was even more resplendent at this moment. The Tao patterns on it were like swimming dragons that began to swim. Suddenly, it absorbed all the surrounding aura of the Tao of dragons. The aura of the Tao of dragons transformed into giant dragons that all entered the golden dragon egg. This process lasted for 49 days. Finally, the golden dragon egg cracked open from the middle with a crack. Throughout the entire process, all the primordial creatures, primordial kings, sages, and terrifying old men in the nest of 10,000 dragons waited with rapt attention. For 49 days, no one moved, no one said a word. When they saw the golden dragon egg in front of them crack open, their eyes erupted with excitement. One by one, they stretched out their heads and looked forward. They were expectant and nervous. The golden dragon egg cracked open, and a golden claw reached out from inside. Immediately after, a golden figure appeared. It was a dragon, a golden dragon. Although it wasn't big, its body emitted a monstrous dragon's might. It roared towards the sky, and its tender voice rolled out. Buzz! The terrifying old man and a few sages took the lead and knelt down on one knee. Greetings, Dragon Prince! Greetings, Dragon Prince! The primordial kings and primordial creatures behind them all knelt on the ground. At this moment, countless people were extremely respectful. Even those sages had faces full of piety because this was the Dragon Prince, the descendant left behind by their Lord Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Emperor was the supreme existence of the dragon race. He had reached the peak and ruled over all races. That ancient era was truly incomparably terrifying. His status was equivalent to that of a great emperor on the human side. And this Dragon Prince was the son of the Dragon Emperor, which was equivalent to the son of a great emperor. One could imagine how precious his identity was. No wonder these sages of the nest of 10,000 dragons had to kneel down. The purest descendant of a great emperor had supreme dragon might and dragon blood. He was the future hope of the 10,000 dragons dynasty. Chapter 2778. Roar! The little golden dragon looked at the people kneeling on the ground and let out a series of roars. Then, it began to devour the golden eggshell and crazily absorb the surrounding Tao of dragon aura. His body was rapidly growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Buzz, buzz, buzz in front of it, the terrifying old man with half of his body sealed waved his palm and shot out streams of laws. They danced in the sky, forming a super-array formation. It quickly gathered the surrounding Tao of dragon aura and completely enveloped the little golden dragon. Then, he stood up, and the few saints beside him also stood up. As for the remaining primordial kings and primordial creatures, they were still kneeling on the ground. The old man with half of his body sealed was surrounded by light, illuminating a corner of the sky. If someone was here, they would definitely scream. Because in the surrounding caves and walls, there were still nerves floating. Some of them were extremely huge. The sealed old man was extremely old. Those old men's eyes were tightly shut. They were still in a deep sleep. Obviously, these were all extremely terrifying supreme existences. Not all of them had awakened. The nest of 10,000 dragons was too big. Countless powerhouses were sleeping, so it was impossible for them all to awaken. Perhaps they would awaken bit by bit. Perhaps these super powerhouses would be preserved as a foundation. Only when the nest of 10,000 dragons or the Dragon Prince were in danger would these super powerhouses be revived. After all, these terrifying powerhouses were already very old, and had reached the verge of their lifespans drying up. Once they were revived, it would be very difficult for them to be sealed by the divine crystals again. Therefore, their revival was especially important. They had to grasp the opportunity well. The old man with half of his body sealed looked around disdainfully. He said in a deep voice, "From today onwards, the 10,000 dragons court will revive. We will reappear on the ground and rule the world. We will rule the world." Those humans were completely ants. They had been taken advantage of for so many years. It was time for them to scram to the side. A cold voice sounded. The primordial creatures roared crazily. They raised their arms and shouted. Waves of killing intent spread out. Then, the old man with half of his body sealed changed the topic. We were revived in this era. There are other reasons. We have deduced that this might be the golden age that Lord Dragon Emperor mentioned. The crisis has passed. This time, the immortal gate might open. This is the only hope of becoming an immortal and entering the immortal world. We will use the power of the entire clan to make the Dragon Prince the new Dragon Emperor and help him successfully enter the immortal sect. He would become the one and only immortal in the world. The words of the Dragon Tribe's progenitor echoed in the surroundings like a clap of thunder. Immortal Ascension. The goal of the Dragon Tribe's ancestor was to help the Dragon Prince become an immortal. If the other martial artists of the human race knew about this, they would definitely be stunned. This idea was simply too heaven-defying. After all, everyone's goal in the true spirit world was to become a great Lo. The great Emperor, on the other hand, had only just begun to consider the question of becoming an immortal. Now that the old ancestor had such thoughts, one had to admit that the dragon race was truly terrifying. Don't worry, Patriarch. We will do our best to help the Crown Prince ascend the immortal gate. Behind him, the saints, Archean kings, and countless ancient creatures called out respectfully. Primordium Ancient Mine. This was also a forbidden area of the human race. All of the human race's crystals had been transported here from the primeval ancient mine and its surroundings. From there, all kinds of seeker spirit masters cut out heavenly materials and earthly treasures. There were even ancient medicines, but no one dared to delve into them. This was because more than one sect master had entered, but in the end, they didn't even cause a ripple and never came out again. This was a place that even saints would take a detour when they saw it. At this moment, in the depths of the primeval ancient mine, there were actually huge godly realms floating. Inside those deity crystals, there were also figures sealed in ice. It was actually the nest of an archaic dynasty. The dragon race of the nest of 10,000 dragons has already awakened. It's time for us to appear. Good. Let our descendants. Let's reign over the land again. Those old figures let out cold voices. Around them were even more ancient creatures. At this moment, they were also awakening one by one. Death Demon Abyss. One of the 5 forbidden areas of the true spirit world. This was an invincible abyss. It was incomparably dark, and no one knew where it connected to. There was once a peerless expert who deduced that this place seemed to be connected to the true hell. Therefore, this was also a forbidden area. Ordinary humans didn't dare to come here. Even saints didn't dare to casually step in. At this moment, a few ancient creatures crawled out of the Death Demon Abyss. They had blue skin, long fangs, and terrifying scales. Roar! As soon as they crawled out, they roared at the sky, their voices shattering the 9 heavens. Behind them, more and more ancient beasts ran out. Some of them were covered in blood, as if they had really crawled out of hell. They were extremely ferocious and terrifying. Fortunately, there were no signs of human habitation within a radius of millions of miles. Because no one dared to be here. Otherwise, they would definitely faint from fright. Void Sea. Located in the extreme north of the northern plains, no one could fight their way here. Moreover, no one dared to come here. Because this was also one of the 5 forbidden areas of the true spirit world. Meanwhile, in the Sea of Oblivion, countless Chi of Oblivion rumbled as one after another ancient beasts charged out from it. The first few were extremely terrifying. Apart from these forbidden areas, there were also ancient creatures in other places. Clearly, the 10,000 ancient races that had been sleeping in the true spirit world had awakened one after another. No one knew if it was because of the dragon race's awakening in the nest of 10,000 dragons, or some other reason. But without exception, these ancient creatures had really come back to life. They would definitely reign over the world. Sure enough, although some places were forbidden areas and dangerous places that ordinary humans didn't dare to enter. But more and more ancient creatures awakened, and the commotion and impact were too great. Finally, someone saw ancient creatures jumping in the mountains with their own eyes. This news spread throughout the 5 continents of the true spirit world. For a moment, the world was in an uproar again. The great sects of the sacred lands and the ancient families were also shocked. What was going on? Why were there ancient creatures in other places apart from the nest of 10,000 dragons? Moreover, they were all revived. Damn it, the 10,000 ancient races. It's the 10,000 ancient races. A living fossil screamed miserably. Was the era of the ancient era of hegemony really going to reappear? That was an era that only existed in legends, an era that had gone through countless years, and no one had any impression of it. However, the records in those ancient books shocked them greatly. The 10,000 ancient races, each race was extremely powerful and terrifying. Back then, the human race was considered a relatively weak race among the 10,000 ancient races. Later, a few emperors appeared one after another, turning the tide and bringing the human race to the peak. But now, the great emperor of the human race had already vanished into thin air. And a new emperor hadn't been born. In fact, it had been tens of thousands of years. There were no new emperors. If the 10,000 ancient races descended again, how could the human race resist? Chapter 2779. Lin Xian also received the news. Everyone in the Immortal Palace was dumbfounded. The Crimson Dragon was also anxious. It's over, kid, the era of the ancient era's hegemony is really coming. Lin Xian also took a deep breath, his eyes flickering. Although he had never seen the true 10,000 ancient races and the ancient era's hegemony, just from the situation in the nest of 10,000 dragons, he could guess that the situation was definitely serious. Li Xunxian, the chief guardian, and the others also had ugly expressions. They had been contacting the old palace master, but the old palace master didn't seem to have returned until now. This made them even more anxious. What was going on? The old palace master had left? Could it be that he went to the nest of 10,000 dragons to snatch the immortal divine herb? They didn't know, and it seemed that there was no news of another battle in the nest of 10,000 dragons from outside. What worried them even more was that if the old palace master went down and entered the nest of 10,000 dragons, it would be dangerous. Because there was more than one sage in the nest of 10,000 dragons. For a moment, they were worried for Xia Jiuyu. Lin Xian asked. Rosalong, how much do you know about the 10,000 ancient races? To be honest, he only knew of the dragon race in the nest of 10,000 dragons, the war race, and the celestial race. It was said that back then, they were also terrifying existences among the 10,000 ancient races. They were even conferred the title of royal race. The Crimson Dragon said. The 10,000 ancient races was just a general term that referred to all races and creatures. The human race was one of them. And among them, the powerful races were conferred the title of royal race. It was said that back then, the top 100 races of the 10,000 ancient races were all conferred the title of royal race. These royal races were powerful, and what was even more terrifying was that their talent and bloodline were astonishing. Among the 100 immemorial royal families, there were 10 of the top immemorial royal families. They were above all the other races and were extremely terrifying. Of course, those races that had produced great emperors were conferred the title of royal race. Compared to the other royal races, they had even more terrifying bloodlines and inheritances. Moreover, these royal races also had a large number of followers. Some of them had even subdued many races. Even the royal races had to rely on them. It could be said that their strength was terrifying. The dragon clan of the nest of 10,000 dragons was one of the royal clans. Back then, the dragon monarch was a figure who startled the heavens and earth and made ghosts and gods weep. But don't worry, no matter how terrifying it will disappear in the passage of time. Therefore, I speculate that there are no great emperors or sovereigns among these ancient royal and sovereign clans. Lin Xian nodded. He now had a general understanding of the ancient royal family. However, Li Xunxian and the head protector had ugly expressions on their faces. Even if there aren't any emperors or sovereigns among the primeval royal families, So what? The human race doesn't have any emperors or sovereigns either. Furthermore, these ancient royal families had been passed down from ancient times. Their foundations and bloodlines were simply too powerful, far surpassing the current era. If they really fought, it would be difficult for the human race to resist. Then I don't know. The Crimson Dragon shrugged, but he said, "Don't be too pessimistic. Humans aren't as weak as you think. After all, after so many years of development, the human race controlled more than 70% of the true spirit world's territory. Moreover, there were many great emperor clans and remote antiquity clans among the human race. There were even a few extreme weapons left in the world. The foundations of those remote antiquity clans are definitely beyond your imagination. It's just that they don't usually show it. Once they encounter a life-and-death crisis, they will definitely be heaven-defying and shocking. Just wait and see. When the time comes, those extreme weapons might be used too. However, the people will definitely be plunged into misery and suffering. It's just that I don't know how far the human race can go." "What will happen?" Lin Xian asked doubtfully. "Do they have a grudge against the human race?" "Not really, but think about it. When they were still awake, the human race was still a weak race. And they were the rulers of the world. When they woke up, the ants in their eyes directly controlled the entire world. How could these ancient royal families be willing to accept this? They would definitely fight for the control of the world. After all, although they were royal and sovereign clans, they had a strong foundation. However, they still needed to develop. To develop, they needed a large number of spirit veins, dragon veins, divine crystals, cultivation methods, and spiritual herbs. All of these required an endless amount of territory to nurture. Therefore, when the time came, there would definitely be a lot of battles. The human race's remote antiquity clans and great sects had experienced so many tens of thousands of years of inheritance. How could they give up the territory they managed? Therefore, battles were unavoidable. It's just that I don't know how many of the 10,000 ancient races have awakened this time. How many royal clans are there? Are there any other sovereign clans? Let's send our people to investigate." Lin Xian ordered, preparing to let Immortal Palace's martial artists go out to investigate the situation. At the very least, they had to understand the movements of the 10,000 ancient races. However, before they could send anyone out, an elder of Immortal Palace hurriedly flew over. "Palace Master, something bad has happened." "What's wrong?" Lin Xian frowned and asked. Li Xunxian and the Great Guardian were even more nervous. Was there news of the old Palace Master? They were very worried about the old Palace Master's safety. The elder of Immortal Palace shook his head. It wasn't the old Palace Master, but an ancient creature. Ancient creature? What's going on? Have they launched an attack? The Crimson Dragon at the side also asked. Could it be that they moved so quickly and started a war as soon as they woke up? That's not it. The elder shook his head and hurriedly said, "An ancient creature came to our immortal palace and said that he wants to see the palace master." "Why, an ancient creature came to our immortal palace?" Hearing this, Lin Xian was stunned. The Crimson Dragon was also stunned. Li Xunxian, the great custodian, and the rest of the custodians were stunned. What was going on? Why did an ancient creature come to their door? Moreover, the other party actually knew the exact location of their immortal palace. This was unbelievable. One had to know that there were many array formations outside their immortal palace. The other holy lands and great sects might not be able to find their exact location. However, an ancient creature actually came to find them. It was unbelievable. Was this the strength of the 10,000 ancient races? It was really too terrifying. What was he doing here? Lin Xian asked in a deep voice. He was very puzzled. Why would an ancient creature come to find them for no reason? Could it be that the people of the nest of 10,000 dragons came to take revenge? However, if they were really from the nest of 10,000 dragons, they should have directly attacked. He was very puzzled. The elder said quickly. He didn't know. He said that he had something to see the palace master. He wants to see me? Lin Xian was even more puzzled. He didn't know what ancient creature he was. However, he still said, "All right, let him in." However, he had to be careful and see if it was just him. Were there other ancient creatures hiding behind him? If there were other ambushes, he would directly use the array formations to kill him. Lin Xian suspected that this was very likely to be a trap set by the enemy. Therefore, he gave a few instructions. The elder received the order and quickly flew into the distance. Chapter 2780. The Immortal Palace elder led a group of warriors to the entrance of the Immortal Palace. They used all kinds of secret techniques to investigate, and found that there was only one figure in front of them. There were no other ambushes, which made them secretly relieved. The Immortal Palace elder waved the small flag in his hand. The array on both sides rumbled and opened up a path. Buzz! He looked at the figure in front of him. "Follow me." The figure stood with his hands behind his back. He raised his head to the sky and looked very proud. Seeing this scene, he nodded coldly. His figure swayed and directly entered the array. Lin Xian, the Crimson Dragon, Li Xuanxian, the Great Guardian, and the others came to the Starry Hall. Lin Xian sat high on the Hall Master's seat. His expression was solemn as he waited silently. Not long after, the Immortal Palace elder came in. "Hall Master, someone is here!" Before he could finish his words, a figure appeared in the hall. This scene made everyone frown. How arrogant and rude! How dare he come to their immortal palace? Lin Xian also frowned. He narrowed his eyes and looked forward. In front of him was a silver figure. This person had a tall appearance. He was more than twice the size of an ordinary human warrior. Silver lightning flickered on his body. Not only that, but his skin was also silver as if it was made of silver. What kind of race was this? Lin Xian was puzzled. The Crimson Dragon at the side said. He was from the Silver Lightning race. Although the Silver Lightning race was not an ancient royal race, they were still a very powerful race. Especially the silver lightning on their bodies. It was said that they were born with it. It was very terrifying. It carried a powerful destructive aura. Silver Lightning race. Su Chen nodded silently. As expected, the person was like his name. The other party's body was covered in fine silver lightning that kept swimming. It carried a terrifying power. Even he was surprised by this power. "Why are you looking for me?" Lin Xian asked in a deep voice. The ancient creature from the Silver Lightning race opened his mouth and said a string of words. However, Lin Xian frowned. Li Xuanxian, the Great Guardian, and the others also looked gloomy. They discovered that they were simply unable to understand what the other party was saying. Damn it, what did this guy say? Lin Xian was stunned. Could it be that these ancient lifeforms didn't know how to speak? If you don't understand, use your soul to communicate. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Although their languages were different, whether it was the human race, the Silver Lightning race, or other ancient creatures, their souls were always connected. Therefore, soul communication could be said to be the simplest and most direct method. Even if there was a language barrier, it shouldn't be too big of an obstacle. Up ahead, the Silver Lightning race cultivator sneered. You don't even understand? Your human race has really declined. You don't even know the primordial immortal language? His voice was filled with disdain. Courting death. How dare you! The surrounding elders were furious. The other party came to their immortal palace alone, yet dared to act so insolently, not placing them in his eyes at all. The expressions of the protector and the others also darkened as a terrifying aura surged from their bodies. However, the Silver Lightning race cultivator was not afraid at all. He still stood with his hands behind his back, looking up at the sky with a look of supremacy. Facing the terrifying pressure around him, he sneered. Silver lightning circled around his body, forming 3 silver lightning halos that enveloped his body. Lin Xian waved his hand to stop these elders. Just now, the Crimson Dragon had already explained to him that the other party was speaking the primordial immortal language, the common language of the 10,000 immemorial races. This language was regarded as the immortal language by the 10,000 immemorial races at that time. It was rumored that an immortal had descended to the mortal world to teach them this language. It could be said to be incomparably sacred. However, later on, as the 10,000 immemorial races fell into a deep slumber, the human race developed their own language. Gradually, no one spoke the primordial immortal language anymore. Therefore, these people now didn't know the primordial immortal language at all. Of course, the Crimson Dragon was an exception. He knew the dragon language. The dragon language was also one of the primordial immortal languages, and it was the most noble one. Therefore, he could naturally understand what the other party was saying. After learning this, Lin Xian said coldly, "It was no longer the primordial immortal era, nor was it the time when the 10,000 immemorial races ruled the world. Now, the human race was prosperous and ruled the world. What we speak is naturally the human race's language. If you have something to say to me, just speak the human race's language." Lin Xian wouldn't speak the primordial immortal language in front of the other party. This was a matter of standpoint. Even if he understood, he wouldn't say it. The human race had really declined, and they had actually abandoned the immortals. "You will be punished by destruction," the Silver Lightning Race powerhouse said coldly. This time, his words were understood by the surrounding people because the other party was speaking the same language as Lin Xian and the others, the human race's language. However, Lin Xian, Li Xuanxian, and the others' expressions were very ugly. The other party was still so arrogant, completely looking down on them and even the entire human race. If you have something to say, just say it directly. Lin Xian also didn't want to have a war of words with the other party. He was very curious now. What exactly was the other party here for? In front, the Silver Lightning Race powerhouse looked down at Lin Xian and said coldly, "You are the Immortal Palace's master." "That's right, I am." Lin Xian nodded coldly. The other party's arrogant attitude really made him unhappy. However, he still waited patiently and prepared to listen to the other party. The Immortal Palace's master was actually a young boy. The Silver Lightning Race powerhouse sneered again. "Listen carefully, the Silver Lightning Race has already recovered and is about to rule the world. Now, with the place where the Silver Lightning Race has recovered as the center, no human is allowed to set foot in a radius of 5 million miles. Those who violate this rule will be killed without mercy." The cold voice resounded in all directions and echoed in the main hall. The pupils of Li Xuanxian, the chief guardian, and the others shrank. The other elders were also in an uproar. Lin Xian's face completely darkened. The other party was actually here to threaten and warn them. This really surprised them. These people's faces were very ugly. When had the Immortal Palace ever been threatened and warned like this? Moreover, it was a race that had just awakened. So what if the other party was from the 10,000 ancient races? The Immortal Palace was not to be trifled with. Therefore, Lin Xian snorted coldly. "No human is allowed to set foot in a radius of 5 million miles? Those who violate this rule will be killed without mercy? What an arrogant attitude! If my guess is right, the place where you have recovered should be under the control of the Immortal Palace. How dare you say such words in the territory of the Immortal Palace? You really don't know what death is. Who do you think you are? An immortal who has descended to the mortal world? How dare you threaten me?" At the end of his words, an incomparably terrifying aura rose from Lin Xian's body. His guess was right. The place where the Silver Lightning Race had recovered was indeed under the control of the Immortal Palace. Although the distance from the headquarters of the Immortal Palace was very far, the Immortal Palace was a wholly level existence and controlled countless territories. How could he allow someone to establish a country like China in their territory, and even dare to threaten and provoke them like this? Chapter 2781. The Silver Lightning Race powerhouse's expression darkened when he heard this. There was a hint of killing intent in his eyes as he spoke coldly. "Kid, you'd better think carefully. Do you want to go against the Silver Lightning Race? What are the consequences of going against us? Don't think that you're a sacred land or the master of immortal palace. In front of the silver lightning race, you're nothing. The 10,000 ancient races are about to revive and rule the world. The good days of the human race are about to come to an end. When the time comes, you'll all become prisoners. So today, I'm not here to discuss with you. I'm here to give you an order. If you dare to take a step within a radius of 500 miles, I'll destroy Immortal Palace. Arrogant, too arrogant. An ancient creature dared to challenge the entire Immortal Palace? Who gave him the courage? Li Xuanxian, the chief protector, and the others had gloomy expressions. They wanted nothing more than to slap the other party to death. But to be honest, they really didn't dare. The 10,000 ancient races were connected. Some of them had a good relationship with each other, so attacking one race was equivalent to attacking many other races. There were even some who were inextricably linked to the ancient royal clan. Therefore, unless they had no other choice, they really didn't want to start a war with the 10,000 ancient races. However, the other party was too arrogant. It made these people murderous. The atmosphere in the entire hall was very solemn. Countless cracks even appeared in the void. Damn, how dare you threaten us? Do you want to die? The Crimson Dragon jumped up. He flew into the sky and looked ahead coldly. Believe it or not, Ben Huang will roast you and eat you. Who do you think you are? A snake dares to be arrogant in front of me? The Silver Lightning Race powerhouse sneered. But in the next moment, he screamed, and fear appeared in his eyes. That was because he felt an extremely strong pressure and monstrous blood surging out from the other party's body. Dragon race? You're a dragon. He was too shocked. There was nothing he could do. The dragon race was the royal race of the 10,000 ancient races. They were high and mighty, and their status and identity were much stronger than the Silver Lightning race. In front of the Dragon Pearl, the Silver Lightning race powerhouse didn't dare to be impudent at all. But soon he frowned. No, the dragon race was in the nest of 10,000 dragons and hadn't appeared yet. And even if they appeared, why would they walk with humans? Damn it, who the hell are you? He was extremely surprised. He didn't believe that the immemorial royal family, the Dragon Clan, would walk together with humans. This was simply impossible. Is Ben Huang's matter something an ant like you can inquire about? The Crimson Dragon floated in the air and looked down at the other party, its voice full of disdain. If you dare to be arrogant in front of me again, Ben Huang will slap you to death. The Silver Electric Race's expert had an ugly expression on his face. However, the dragon might and dragon blood on Lin Fan's body were truly oppressing his soul. Therefore, he didn't dare to be presumptuous anymore. He had to hurry back and find out what was going on. Could it be that the nest of 10,000 dragons had made a new move? In the next moment, he looked at Lin Xian and said coldly, "Brat, I've already delivered the message. I hope you will abide by it and we can still live in peace. Otherwise." He didn't continue, but his meaning was clear. Anyone who dared to provoke them would be declaring war on the Silver Lightning race. This was not something a sacred ground or a large sect could bear. Even if Immortal Palace was powerful, they wouldn't be able to bear it. At this point, he snorted coldly and turned around to leave. Looking at the other party's arrogant figure, the surrounding Immortal Palace cultivators gritted their teeth, but there was nothing they could do. Many of them were so angry that they were trembling. Damn it, they really wanted to attack and kill him with a slap. Lin Xian's eyes were also shining with a terrifying light. Wait, did I say you could leave? In front of him, the Silver Electric Race's expert stiffened, and a hint of anger appeared in his eyes. He suddenly turned his head. Brat, how dare you stop me? So what if you have a dragon beside you? He might not even be from the nest of 10,000 dragons. The Silver Electric Race's expert was also furious. Their Silver Electric Race was an extremely powerful race among the 10,000 ancient races. They were born with divine lightning, and the other 10,000 ancient races didn't dare to be presumptuous towards them. Not to mention a mere human. Moreover, he was a young human brat. Lin Xian sat high on the throne, and his cold voice sounded. I am the master of Immortal Palace, and I am on equal footing with the patriarch of your silver electric race. How dare you be presumptuous in front of me? You really have no manners. Quickly kneel down and apologize. His voice was like thunder, carrying a biting cold murderous aura that surrounded the 9 heavens. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was stunned. The Immortal Palace cultivators couldn't believe that their palace master was so powerful. The silver electric race's expert was also stunned. He couldn't believe his ears. The next moment he screamed. Brat, what did you say? You want me to kneel down and apologize? You're courting death. Believe it or not, I'll take your head off right now. He took a step forward, and the lightning on his body surged, turning into lightning beasts that surrounded him, filling the void. You want my head? Do you have the ability? Lin Xian also stood up, and the 9 yang divine body bloomed with light. Not only that, but sword energy rushed out from his body, turning into a true dragon that circled around him, making him look like a god of war. Palace Master, you can't? The chief protector and the others cried out in alarm. Although they were furious, they really couldn't start a war with the 10,000 ancient races now. The 10,000 ancient races were too terrifying. If they didn't handle it well, it would really trigger a great war. That result was not something that anyone could bear. Seeing the surrounding elders persuade him, the silver electric race's expert threw his head back and laughed loudly. Ha 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 ha, brat, do you see that? These experts of Immortal Palace are all afraid of me and don't dare to fight with me at all. You still don't know what's good for you. Kneel down and apologize to me now, and I can consider sparing your life. Humph. Lin Xian's eyes were filled with biting cold killing intent. They didn't dare to, but that didn't mean that he didn't dare to. At this point, the sword energy on his body swept through the sky, charging toward the silver electric race's expert. A shocking sword strike caused heaven and earth to pale. In an instant, everyone felt their bodies being pierced through. This sword light was too piercingly cold. Although Lin Xian didn't obtain many treasures in the nest of 10,000 dragons, his great dragon sword soul had absorbed endless dragon Dao aura, so it was revived again. Its strength had increased exponentially. At this moment, when it was used, it was truly shocking. Courting death. The silver electric race's expert was also furious. He urged the lightning beast beside him to quickly pounce forward. It collided with the sword light. Lightning burst out in the sky, wanting to destroy the sword light. However, under this sword, all things were destroyed. All the lightning beasts were split apart by the sword. The cuts were flat, and there was no way for them to revive. The lightning also quickly dimmed and then disappeared into the void. Only waves of white smoke rose. But this sword slashed toward the silver electric race's expert with a supreme stance. Chapter 2782. Not good. The Silver Lightning Race powerhouse's expression changed. He did not expect the other party's sword chi to be so powerful. He roared angrily, and his fist surged, turning into a mountain as he faced the attack. Clang! Above him, the two collided. Pooh! Silver blood splattered, piercing through the void. The Silver Lightning Race powerhouse retracted his palm and kept retreating, screaming. His fist was split in half. His strange face was also incomparably distorted. His eyes were blood red. Damn brat, how dare you hurt me? He was extremely angry, but at the same time, he was also filled with fear. The other party's strength had far exceeded his imagination. To be able to easily injure him with a single sword strike, it was simply too unbelievable. One had to know that he was from the 10,000 ancient races. He was powerful, and his physique was even more powerful. Even a heaven-grade weapon might not be able to break through his defense. Damn it! You! He still wanted to say something, but in the next moment he screamed. The sword chi in front of him once again covered the sky and the earth, enveloping him. Damn it, get lost! With an angry roar, silver lightning quickly rushed out from his body, turning into lightning balls. The terrifying lightning balls exploded, forming a sea of lightning that filled the sky, blasting away all the sword chi. Humph, brat, I was careless just now. You want to kill me? You're still far from it. The silver lightning race powerhouse sneered again. But in the next moment, he trembled. Because he saw a dragon-shaped sword shadow slash across his neck. Instantly, half of his neck was cut open, and blood flowed wildly, dyeing his body red. He did not know when the other party had already appeared behind him, and a cold voice sounded in his ear. Do you think it's difficult for me to kill you? He trembled extremely. The silver lightning race powerhouse's body trembled. The other party could have killed him directly with that sword strike just now. However, the other party did not. He only cut open half of his neck. This meant that the other party was warning him. I'll give you one last chance. Kneel down and apologize. Brat, you're courting death. Kill me if you can. The silver lightning race powerhouse shouted angrily. He guessed that the other party did not dare to make a move at all. He must have some scruples. Pooh! As soon as he finished speaking, he felt a chill on his neck, and his head and body were separated. With a plop, his body fell to the ground. Lin Xian grabbed the man's head. Do you think I don't dare? Ah, damned brat, you dare to kill me! You're dead meat. The Silver Lightning tribe will never let you off. The head roared furiously. At that time, when my Silver Lightning clan's great army presses down, your immortal palace will be dead for sure. Su Qin sneered. How dare he still be so stubborn? Acting recklessly. Do you believe that I can destroy your soul with a single move? He waved his dragon-shaped sword, and a terrifying sword she locked onto the head. The Silver Lightning race expert's head was shocked, and his eyes were filled with fear. Indeed, he felt a destructive aura that could easily destroy his soul. Damn it, who the hell is this kid? How could it be so terrifying? What was that dragon-shaped sword in his hand? Why was it able to cut his body apart so easily? He was an expert of the Silver Lightning race. But in the eyes of the other party, he was like an ant. He could not believe it. Su Qin snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, he threw away the other party's head. The head flew out and merged with the corpse on the ground, forming a complete body. The Silver Lightning race expert recovered. His face was pale, and he looked at the other party with an unusually cold gaze. Kid, I'll fight you. He opened his mouth and spat out a sickle that emitted a simple and heavy aura. It seemed to be an ancient treasure. He wanted to fight with his life on the line. Golden runes appeared in Lin Xian's eyes. Buzz! His heavenly secret divine eyes were activated, and a terrifying soul attack rushed out. Ah! The other party's body trembled as he screamed crazily. He did not expect Lin Xian to use a soul attack. Therefore, he was careless and his soul power was severely injured. The golden runes in Lin Xian's eyes spun rapidly, forming mysterious patterns one after another. He directly controlled the other party. Kneel down. A cold voice sounded. The Silver Lightning race expert's eyes were lifeless. With a plop, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed continuously. This scene shocked everyone. Especially the elders of Immortal Palace. They sucked in a breath of cold air. The chief enforcer, Li Xunxian, and the others had solemn expressions. Although they had subdued the silversmith race expert, the situation was not optimistic. After all, the other party was backed by the Silver Lightning race. They were an extremely terrifying race among the 10,000 ancient races. Lin Xian looked at the chief enforcer, Li Xunxian, and the other elders and said in a deep voice, Don't worry, I won't kill him. Also, do you think that we can exchange for safety if we keep on giving in? Hearing this, Li Xunxian and the chief enforcer's bodies stiffened, and a trace of shock appeared in their eyes. Lin Xian continued, Chaos is coming, and the 10,000 ancient races are recovering. Only a powerful force can suppress everything. Otherwise, no matter how respectful and courteous you are, the other party will probably raise the butcher's knife in their hand and mercilessly chop you down. Therefore, there is no need to be afraid when facing the 10,000 ancient races. If we can win, we will fight. If we can't, even if we have to risk our lives, we will bite off a piece of their flesh and let them know that we are not to be trifled with. Before anyone dares to touch us, they should think about the consequences of doing so. This way, our immortal palace will be able to survive in this chaotic world. Otherwise, everyone will think that we are cowards and easy to bully. This way, there will be endless 10,000 ancient races coming to bully us. Are you willing to live such a life? Lin Xian's voice echoed in the surroundings. Hearing this, the elders felt their scalps go numb. Indeed, they were too shocked by the information of the 10,000 ancient races and forgot about this matter. Even if they gave in today, the Silver Lightning race would not be nice to them. In the future, they would definitely be even more greedy and bully them. Therefore, there was only one outcome if they submitted or resisted. The other party would have to fight sooner or later. If that was the case, why not resist? Perhaps they could even make them afraid and hurt them in advance. In the next moment, everyone looked at the Silver Lightning race's experts kneeling in the hall. Lin Xian also looked at them and said coldly, "Get lost. Tell your people that I will only give you a range of 100,000 miles. You can be safe and sound in that range, but if you dare to run around outside, I will kill you without mercy. Get lost!" With a wave of his sleeve, he sent the Silver Lightning race's expert flying. At the same time, he removed the soul control. The Silver Lightning race's expert vomited blood and flew out of the hall. His body also recovered. Thinking of what happened before, he was so angry that he vomited blood and went crazy. "Ah!" he roared at the sky. Lightning surged on his body, turning into a lightning dragon that roared in all directions. That damn brat, he was so angry that he went crazy. He was a dignified expert of the Silver Lightning race. When had he ever knelt and kowtowed to a human? This was intolerable. He wanted to go all out, but in the next moment, all the hair on his body stood on end. Chapter 2783. He discovered that the elders and experts who had been afraid of him before were now emitting an incomparably cold killing intent, firmly locking onto him. He had no doubt that as long as he made a move, these elders would mercilessly attack and kill him. Damned brat, just you wait. All of you, just you wait. My Silver Lightning race will definitely not let this go. Just wait for the fury of my 10,000 ancient races. After speaking, the Silver Lightning race expert turned around and left. Like a stray dog, he quickly fled. Humph! Lin Xian coldly snorted. The eyes of the Immortal Palace cultivators all flickered. Previously, the other side had been acting arrogant, but when they hardened their hearts and prepared to fight to the death, the other side was afraid. Didn't this confirm what Lin Xian had said before? Facing the 10,000 ancient races, they must not cower. They must fight to the death. Send people to investigate the Silver Lightning race's movements. At the same time, call back our people and fully activate the array, ready for battle. Lin Xian's voice was ice cold. He guessed that the Silver Lightning race would definitely make some moves, but Immortal Palace would not be afraid. Following this, the elders and disciples all began to move. In fact, it wasn't just Immortal Palace. At the same time, the Yi family, Gu family, Jade Pool, Alcade, and many other great sects and dynasties all received such ancient creatures. This was because the 10,000 ancient races of true spirit world had recovered. Wherever they recovered, the 10,000 ancient races would send their own experts to communicate with the local great sections. Of course, the content of the communication was more or less the same. Most of them wanted a stable territory so that other human cultivators could not casually step in. Although 5 million miles was a large distance, it was still a drop in the ocean for the great sections. Moreover, the reputation of the 10,000 ancient races was too strong. Therefore, ordinary great sects did not dare to contend with them. They all tacitly agreed to give up 5 million miles of territory in exchange for temporary peace. The ancient race powerhouses who had gone there all returned satisfied. They held their heads high and arrogantly left the great sections. Many great sects even sent a group of elders to see them off. When the other warriors saw this scene, they were all stunned. Huge waves even surged in their hearts. What's going on? So many ancient creatures had appeared, and the elders of the great sects of the human Holy Land treated them so respectfully. What's going on? There must have been a secret negotiation. However, it seemed like the great sects of the human race had given in. Damn it! It can't be! Could it be that the 10,000 ancient races can regain control of the entire true spirit world without even a war? Everyone's face was filled with despair. Of course, not all the great sects in the Holy Land were so humble. There were some who were more forceful. Although there hadn't been any major battles, their territory had shrunk from 5 million miles to 4 million miles to 3 million miles. The ancient creatures negotiated with him, and eventually, they all agreed to his request. After all, the strength and foundation of these great sects were extremely terrifying. However, on Immortal Palace and Lin Xian's side, they directly declared war, making the other side kowtow and apologize, moreover throwing them out. This was probably the only one in the world. Even the remote antiquity families wouldn't dare to do that. At this moment, the Yi clan also welcomed a figure. A figure bathed in flames descended upon the Yi family like a god of fire. At this moment, the elders of the Yi clan all had ugly expressions. Yi Wadao sat there with a gloomy expression. The Yi clan head's eyes flickered. This was because the other side had made the same request. They wanted to draw a 5 million mile forbidden zone near the Yi clan, and no one was allowed to enter. Not even the Yi clan could approach. This was unacceptable to the experts of the Yi clan. The Yi clan was a remote antiquity family, a descendant of the monarch race. In the true spirit world, especially the eastern wasteland, they were a true overlord. When the other great sects of the Holy Land saw them, they would have to lower their heads. Most likely, apart from the other remote antiquity families and the great sects of the Holy Land that possessed extreme weapons, no one was their match. But now, these ancient creatures had come out and demanded to divide the Yi clan's territory. They were truly courting death. However, the Yi clan head's expression was grave. This wasn't an ordinary ancient creature, but an expert of the remote antiquity royal race. The remote antiquity royal race was an extremely terrifying existence. The vermilion bird race was an extremely terrifying existence among the remote antiquity royal races. The vermilion bird was a divine beast between heaven and earth. The vermilion bird race was a race with the bloodline of divine beasts flowing through their veins. They were extremely terrifying. But so what if they were terrifying? The Yi clan wasn't to be trifled with. The Yi clan was the descendant of a great emperor, an emperor race. Among the 10,000 ancient races, they were equivalent to royalty. How could they be afraid of the vermilion bird race? Therefore, the smell of gunpowder between the two sides was very strong. They were in a deadlock, and they were on the verge of starting a war. Humph! The vermilion bird expert was bathed in divine flames as he said coldly. So what if you're the descendant of a great emperor? Your great emperor is no longer here. But the ancestor of my vermilion bird race is still alive. If you really anger us, the ancestor of my vermilion bird race will descend and destroy your Yi clan. Let's see if the great emperor you believe in will be able to save you then. When these words came out, the faces of the Yi clan's elders changed. The disciples of the Yi clan were also extremely shocked. What? The ancestor of the vermilion bird race was still alive? Heavens, how many tens of thousands of years had it lived? Although it was sealed with divine crystals, it was still too terrifying to think about. To think that there was such a terrifying expert hidden in their Yi clan's territory. It really made them feel a lingering fear. How dare you threaten my Yi clan? Is your vermilion bird race's ancestor very powerful? A Yi clan's grand elder stood up. He looked to be in his 30s, but he was indeed a grand elder who had lived for more than 3,000 years. He was very terrifying and had a very fiery temper. When he heard the other party's arrogant words, the grand elder was furious. Do you really think that my Yi clan is easy to bully? Do you really think that your vermilion bird race's ancestor can sweep through everything? Today, I'll let you see the foundation of my Yi clan. At this point, he snorted coldly, and a burst of golden blood rushed out of his body, turning into a pillar of light that shot into the sky. Buzz! In the depths of the Yi clan, a primitive aura surged out, bringing with it a destructive power. Although it was only a trace, it made everyone tremble. The powerful being from the vermilion bird tribe, in particular, was sprawled on the ground in utter terror. Damn it, what was that? This aura was too powerful, surpassing the might of a saint. An extreme weapon! Damn it, it was an extreme weapon! He was too shocked. He didn't expect that the Yi clan had left behind an extreme weapon. Now that it was activated, the Emperor's might of the extreme weapon was not something that he could withstand. The other party was only warning him. Otherwise, if he really attacked, he would be killed in an instant. Chapter 2784. Seeing the vermilion bird lying on the ground and trembling, the experts in the Yi family's main hall all laughed. What vermilion bird race? In front of the Yi family's extreme weapon, wouldn't they kneel and crawl? The vermilion bird race's expert had an ugly expression. His eyes were burning with anger. Damn it! How dare you treat me like this? I'll have the family destroy you. He was furious. When had he ever been so afraid in front of so many humans? Humph! The Grand Elder snorted and waved his hand. Immediately, the extreme weapon's pressure disappeared without a trace. The vermilion bird race's expert also stood up from the ground. His body trembled, and killing intent surged out of his body. Yi Wadao also took a step forward. His golden aura surged as he faced the Grand Elder without fear. Seeing that the atmosphere was getting more and more tense, the Yi family's patriarch spoke. We can give you the 5 million-mile area you asked for. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. The vermilion bird race's expert smiled. But soon, his smile froze. The Yi family's patriarch continued. However, you can't stay in the Yi family's territory. You can move out of the Yi family's territory and divide it in another ungoverned territory. The vermilion bird race's expert's expression turned ugly. He wanted them to retreat. Wasn't this admitting that the vermilion bird race was afraid of the other party? If news of this spread, the vermilion bird race would lose face. How would they survive in the future? They would probably be mocked to death by countless people. Impossible! The vermilion bird race's expert refused. The Yi family's patriarch didn't get angry. Instead, he said indifferently, You felt the Emperor's pressure just now, right? Our Yi family has a complete extreme weapon, and we have enough resources and ability to fully activate it. How much do you know about the extreme weapon's power? I can tell you about it. 30,000 years ago, a demonic sect appeared in the eastern wilderness. It was extremely terrifying. Its strength was equivalent to a top holy land, but its methods were extremely cruel, and it killed countless people. In order to return peace to the world, the Yi family's Saint Physique carried an extreme weapon and destroyed the demonic palace with a single attack. All the experts inside were killed. Not a single one of them came out alive. 50,000 years ago, the demon race prospered. A peerless genius appeared and became a demon saint. Their strength was extremely terrifying, and they slaughtered the human race. At the critical moment, the saint of the Yi family once again brought out an extreme weapon. With one strike, he sank half of the eastern barren territory and killed that talented saint of the demon race. At this point, the Yi family's martial artist, Old Zhang, was very excited. They all clenched their fists. The faces of the vermilion bird tribe elites became paler and paler. In fact, even without the other party's explanation, he already knew how terrifying and powerful these extreme weapons were. That was a weapon forged and used by a great emperor. It contained an extremely powerful emperor's might, surpassing that of a saint. As long as he was resurrected, it would be equivalent to a great emperor temporarily descending into the mortal world. His power would definitely be unimaginable, and he would be able to sweep through everything. Seeing the other party's expression, the Yi clan's patriarch smiled. Very good, It seems like you know the power of an extreme weapon. Then, how far is the Vermilion Bird tribe from my Yi clan's headquarters? Would he be able to dodge the attack of an extreme weapon? At this point, the Vermilion Bird race's expert's expression changed greatly, and cold sweat appeared on his back. His clothes were wet, and the flames on his body dimmed. That's right, they were incomparably powerful and wanted to suppress the Yi clan, but they forgot that they were too close to the Yi clan. If the Yi clan was angered and directly used an extreme weapon, the Vermilion Bird tribe would not be able to escape. After all, this distance was completely within the attack range of an extreme weapon. Even if their patriarch was resurrected, it would probably be useless. Just the aftermath of that energy would be able to destroy any existence below a saint. Thinking of this, his attitude changed. I can't make the decision on this matter. I need to go back and discuss it with the elders of the Vermilion Bird tribe. No problem, there's no hurry. The Yi clan's patriarch smiled. I'll give you a month to discuss it. Men, send the guests out. The Yi clan's patriarch waved his hand, and the elders of the Yi clan sent the Vermilion Bird tribe elite out of the Yi clan's residence. After the Vermilion Bird tribe elite left the Yi clan's residence, he turned into a fiery red light and instantly left. This was a big matter, a big crisis. He had to report it quickly. Ha ha. After the Vermilion Bird tribe elite left, the elders of the Yi clan also laughed loudly. What Vermilion Bird tribe? No matter how strong they are nothing in front of the Yi clan. That's right, once an extreme weapon is used, it will sweep away everything. However, the Yi clan's patriarch and the grand elders had grave expressions. The Yi clan's patriarch sighed. He was not so optimistic. Although the Vermilion Bird tribe was strong, they were only a royal clan. Above the royal clan was the immemorial royal clan. Those were also clans with great emperors. In their hands, it was very likely that they also had extreme weapons. When the time came to encounter them, they would have no advantage. The atmosphere in the hall became heavy once again. Indeed, the other party also had the bloodline of a great emperor, and even had extreme weapons left in the world, so they had to be careful. However, they didn't know how many extreme weapons the other party had. Not only the Yi clan, but the Gu clan, Jade Pool, Alcade, Dao-Yi Holy Ground, and other sacred grounds with extreme weapons all displayed the emperor's might of their extreme weapons to scare away the immemorial royal clan. The cultivators outside heaved a sigh of relief as the figures left in a sorry state. Fortunately, these powerful families and sacred grounds could still intimidate these immemorial royal clan. There was still a glimmer of hope for the human race. In addition to the eastern wilderness, the western desert, Nanling Mountains, and northern plains were the same. Some sacred grounds and sects directly surrendered and ceded 5 million miles of land. Some negotiated with each other to reduce the land. Some directly drove the immemorial royal clan away. In short, the atmosphere around the world was very tense. However, Zhongzhou was not so lucky. The divine dynasties and sacred grounds in Zhongzhou were very depressed. Especially those divine dynasties near Qinling Mountains, their expressions were even more ugly. They had no choice because the nest of 10,000 dragons was here. The nest of 10,000 dragons was the lair of the Dragon Clan. The Dragon Clan was an immemorial royal clan and was very terrifying. Moreover, there had been a great emperor in the Dragon Clan. The Dragon Emperor was very famous. Even now, there were still people who remembered his records. One could imagine how terrifying the Dragon Emperor was back then. And the Dragon Emperor must have left behind an extreme weapon to suppress in the nest of 10,000 dragons. Therefore, this was definitely a very dangerous place. Ever since the Dragon Clan revived, the surrounding Ninli dynasty and the Great Xia dynasty directly abandoned that area. They gave the entire Qinling Mountains and the surrounding 50 million miles to the Dragon Clan. Chapter 2785. What made them heave a sigh of relief was that the dragon race and the 10,000 dragons suppression never appeared and did not cause trouble for them. This made all the emperors and sect masters think that the nest of 10,000 dragons was already safe. How could they know that all the powerhouses in the nest of 10,000 dragons were protecting the newly born dragon prince? They were plotting an even more terrifying plan. In addition to the dragon race in the nest of 10,000 dragons, there were also a few terrifying royal races in the true spirit world. These were all races that had produced great emperors and emperors. Divine Phoenix Ridge. A great emperor had appeared in the Phoenix clan. The immortal Phoenix's name was also very terrifying. Of course, among the 10,000 ancient races, not only the nest of 10,000 dragons and Divine Phoenix Ridge's 2 royal races, there were also a few other royal races that were still sleeping. But thinking about it, it wouldn't be long before they all woke up one by one. Every once in a while, a new race would awaken and appear on the earth. These human warriors were all in a state of panic and unease. On the human side, Immortal Palace, Yi family, Gu family, Alke Jade Pool, and other Holy Land sects were all nervously preparing for war, to deal with the counterattack of the 10,000 ancient races. However, there was one more thing that shocked everyone. They didn't even dare to believe it. The news came from the central continent. Of course, it wasn't news from the nest of 10,000 dragons, but news from the Silver Lightning race. When the true spirit world's warriors learned that the Silver Lightning race's emissary entered Immortal Palace and made the same request, they were forcefully beaten out by Immortal Palace. Although no one knew the specific details, this result caused the world to be in an uproar. Heavens, is this for real? I don't dare believe it! That's right, is Immortal Palace already so strong? They actually dared to directly attack the 10,000 ancient races. That was the Silver Lightning race. Although it wasn't an ancient royal race, it was still a very terrifying race. However, they were actually beaten out by Immortal Palace's people. It was really unbelievable. Perhaps even those desolate ancient families didn't dare to do so. It was said that the one who attacked was none other than Immortal Palace's Hall Master, Lin Xian. The other party was really strong. It's over, this kid had definitely provoked a huge disaster. He dared to do this because he was young and had Immortal Palace behind him. But how could he know that he had provoked endless trouble for Immortal Palace? Just wait and see. The Silver Lightning race will definitely not take this lying down. At that time, when the great army arrived, Immortal Palace would be finished. Sounds of discussion sounded one after another. Everyone was first shocked by Lin Xian and Immortal Palace's power. After that, many people shook their heads and sighed. After all, they had completely offended the Silver Lightning clan. Offending a 10,000 ancient race was an extremely terrifying outcome. The Yi clan, Gu clan, Yaoguang, Jade Lake, and Dao Grade Holy Lands were all dumbfounded when they heard this. This was especially true for the remote antiquity families and the sacred ground sects that possessed extreme weapons. This Lin Xian was truly arrogant. Even though we possess extreme weapons, it's only enough to intimidate the 10,000 ancient races. We don't dare to actually attack them. Who would have thought that the other party would actually make a move? Where did he get that backing from? Could it be that their Immortal Palace also had extreme Dao weapons? That shouldn't be possible, right? He had never heard of any great emperor from Immortal Palace. While these people were discussing fervently, some other clans, such as the Tuoba clan, the Five Elements Palace, and the Yin-Yang sect, were sneering. Great, this guy is really courting death. Just wait, he will definitely be killed by the Silver Lightning clan. The Silver Lightning clan was indeed extremely furious. Ever since the experts they sent out returned, the Silver Lightning clan had been furious. Immortal Palace actually dared to beat back the emissary they sent out, and even made them kneel and kowtow. This was truly unforgivable. Damn it. This brat was too arrogant. What Immortal Palace master? In front of our Silver Lightning clan, he is just an ant. Capture him and let him taste all the torture in the world. Let him kneel before our Silver Lightning clan for eternity. What Immortal Palace? How dare they be so arrogant, daring to use the word immortal in their name? Isn't it just an ordinary sacred ground? Directly destroy it. Let everyone know that our Silver Lightning clan's might is not to be trifled with. These Silver Lightning Clan experts all shouted angrily. Some of the elders among them also had gloomy expressions. However, soon, the Silver Lightning Clan's patriarch transmitted a message, telling them not to act rashly. Lin Xian had to be killed, and Immortal Palace also had to be destroyed. However, they still had to wait. This time, when the 10,000 ancient races revived, many races were on the same front, so they were all secretly plotting. Moreover, it was said that a few of the royal families were going to make a big move. At this critical moment, they must not send out troops en masse and attract everyone's attention. Otherwise, the secret would probably be exposed. Damn it, let that brat live for a while longer. When the Silver Lightning Clan experts heard the news from their patriarch, they all gritted their teeth. However, there were also some people who sneered. The patriarch said that they could not send out troops en masse. However, he did not say that they could not go out alone. What do you mean? We have just come into being, so we can take a look at the prodigies of this world and see how strong they are. If they are weak and are killed by us on the spot, then they can't blame us. Several young prodigies of the Silver Lightning Clan revealed sinister smiles. However, that brat seems to be very strong. Even the emissary we sent out was injured. In fact, his soul was even controlled. Someone said with a frown. However, there were also some prodigies who sneered. It was fine. He probably attacked with all his strength and caught us off guard, which was why he injured our emissary. Moreover, we only sent out an emissary. How can he be compared to us? As long as we can defend our souls and be careful of his sword energy, there is nothing to be afraid of. That's right. I heard that the master of the Immortal Palace, Lin Xian, has obtained the title of Central Emperor. He is one of the strongest prodigies of the human race in this world. Killing him is the fastest way to prove our strength. The three young prodigies left the Silver Lightning Clan in a flash. Just as the prodigies of the Silver Lightning Clan were preparing to attack Lin Xian, something unknown happened on the other side of the world. There was a forbidden area in the western desert called the Reincarnation Mountain. This place was extremely terrifying. Regardless of whether you were an ordinary person or an extremely terrifying saint, as long as you walked in, you would never be able to come out again. Therefore, as time passed, no one dared to appear around the Reincarnation Mountain. There were no trees or plants. In fact, no one dared to set foot in a radius of tens of millions of miles. It could be said that this was a true forbidden area. However, at this moment, a figure appeared in front of the Reincarnation Mountain. It was an old figure. This figure had the demeanor of a transcendent being, as if an immortal had descended. He looked at the Reincarnation Mountain in front of him, his eyes flickering like the vast stars. If Lin Xian and the others were here, they would definitely scream because this old man was their Immortal Palace's old palace master, Xia Jiuyu. Xia Jiuyu did not go to the nest of 10,000 dragons, nor did he go to snatch the immortal divine medicine. Instead, he came to the western desert, near the desolate Reincarnation Mountain. Could it be that he wanted to enter the Reincarnation Mountain? Chapter 2786. As expected, Xia Jiuyu walked towards the Reincarnation Mountain. The Reincarnation Mountain was 10,000 feet tall and looked similar to the other mountains. However, when one got closer, one would realize that there was a terrifying force that seemed to want to suck one in. Xia Jiuyu also felt this force. He frowned. Is this the power of reincarnation? He snorted coldly as a sage aura rushed out of his body. Divine chains of order circled around him, blocking the power of reincarnation outside. In the next moment, he strode forward. In an instant, he entered the Reincarnation Mountain. The Reincarnation Mountain was 10,000 feet tall. It was very tall in the eyes of ordinary people, but in the eyes of these experts, it was very small. However, that wasn't the case. There was another world in the Reincarnation Mountain. It could even be said to be a world of its own. After entering, one would realize that it was extremely vast, as if it was really a new world. Boom! As soon as Xia Jiuyu entered, he realized that he was in a vast plain. The vast plain was tens of millions of miles long, and he couldn't see the end of it. On his left and right, there were countless figures. On his left, there were terrifying savage beasts. The savage beasts had monstrous auras and terrifying killing intent. They were all peerless demon kings. There were even a few in the sky that were emitting terrifying sage auras. Saint-level demon kings had actually appeared here. It was too terrifying. On his right, there were thousands of soldiers and horses. There were also some demon kings, but they were all subdued by humans and used as mounts. One of the palms stretched out, carrying the sun, moon, and stars. It shrouded the sky as if it was going to replace it. A great battle broke out. Divine chains of order surged, and terrifying roars shook the sky. There were even mystic skills that had been lost for a long time. Heaven and earth exploded, and Xia Jiuyo's body was shrouded in endless light. Buzz! In an instant, a biting cold aura rushed out of Xia Jiuyo's body. With a snort, all the images were wiped out. It was just an illusion. That's right, an illusion. The Reincarnation Mountain was a place of reincarnation. It could evolve the past, present, and future scenes. It was enough to pass off as real, and even sages could get lost in it. Xia Jiuyo was too powerful. He walked out of the reincarnation world in an instant. The surroundings turned dark again. Xia Jiuyo's body swayed, and he flew forward. After flying for an unknown period of time, an ocean finally appeared in front of him. It was also vast and boundless, with no end in sight. Furthermore, the seawater was black, incomparably black, as if it was the water of hell. In the middle of this black sea, a white bridge appeared. It was incomparably white, and carried with it a strange aura. On the bridge, there were 3 words written in flamboyant calligraphy. They were very simple and were written in the primordial language. However, Xia Jiuyo could see it clearly. Bridge of Helplessness. River Styx, Bridge of Helplessness. Legend had it that they were 2 godly items from hell. But now, they had actually appeared in the Reincarnation Mountain. It had to be said that the Reincarnation Mountain was indeed a peerless forbidden area. Once these 2 terrifying items appeared, they would be able to block the path of a saint. In fact, if a saint were to fall inside, he would probably not be able to come out. However, all of this terrifying scene seemed to be insignificant to Xia Jiuyo. He was like an immortal as he stepped onto the Bridge of Helplessness. His body erupted with terrifying divine light, blocking all of the aura of darkness. Finally, he crossed the Bridge of Helplessness. The scenery before them changed once more. It was as if they had arrived at a new world, surrounded by vast mountains. Boom! Boom! Many cracks appeared on the brown ground, and there was even blood. In the distance, there were birds and beasts roaring. There were even human figures flickering. This scene was no different from the true spirit world outside. It even made people suspect that Xia Jiuyo had already left the Reincarnation Mountain and arrived outside. Ahead, there were roars of demonic beasts and humans. There were even shocking vibrations. Clearly, something strange was happening. However, no one knew what it was. Xia Jiuyo did not walk over. He stood on the brown ground and looked ahead like a divine lamp. Come out, everyone. Something big is happening outside. Xia Jiuyo's voice rang out. Then, the world changed. Endless black she rolled as if a peerless demon king was born. Boom! A terrifying roar sounded as a black dragon appeared in the sky. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, roaring loudly. The black dragon emitted a terrifying saint aura. It was actually a saint-level black dragon. There was actually a dragon here. What was even more shocking was that there was a human figure standing on the black dragon. It was a pitch-black figure with red eyes like a peerless demon king. The aura on his body was even more terrifying. It was as if he wanted to tear the entire world apart. Buzz! Another pure white light appeared, and a beautiful woman appeared in the starry sky. She was surrounded by armor, and divine chains of order danced in the air. Because of her appearance, the surrounding plants and trees grew crazily. In an instant, they reached a height of 1,000 feet. "Old fart, why are you looking for us?" a loud voice rang out. The sky was instantly split in half, and the pitch-black crack would never heal. A blue-robed man walked over. He carried a long saber on his back, and his body emitted an unparalleled light. That sharp aura even made the divine chains of order tremble. One could imagine how terrifying this swordsman was. "Old Xiao, what's the matter? Is there a new change outside?" An ethereal voice drifted over. A black hole appeared in the sky. A green-robed man appeared from the black hole. He was half lying in the void, holding a wine gourd in his hand. His eyes were blurry as if he was drunk. "You old drunkard." Xia Jiuyo looked at him and shook his head. However, he quickly stopped smiling. His expression was extremely solemn. Something had really happened outside. The awakening of the nest of 10,000 dragons had triggered the awakening of the 10,000 ancient races. Now, more than half of the 10,000 ancient races had awakened. Among them, there was no lack of ancient royal races, and even 2 or 3 ancient royal races had awakened. And from the looks of it, the remaining few would also awaken in the near future. What? The 10,000 ancient races had awakened. Even those ancient royal races had awakened? The green-robed woman and the blue-robed swordsman had solemn expressions. In the sky, the middle-aged man drinking wine was also extremely surprised. "Humph, how could this be? It's 300 years ahead of our deduction." Standing on the black dragon, the figure covered in demonic chi said coldly. As he spoke, the demonic chi on his body churned rapidly, and one could vaguely see his white hair fluttering in the wind. His face was very young, and he looked to be in his 20s. This white-haired youth was very young, but no one dared to underestimate him. The aura on his body was too cold. It was so cold that the entire world trembled. If this wasn't the reincarnation realm inside the reincarnation mountain, there would have been a huge collapse outside. Chapter 2787. The nest of 10,000 dragons was discovered in advance, and a group of sacred leaders and sect masters went in to explore. In the end, it triggered the awakening of the experts inside. Xia Jiuyo briefly explained the situation outside. In the sky, a few stalwart figures listened with solemn expressions. Among them, the white-haired demon lord snorted coldly. This group of people really didn't know what was good for them. The green-clothed fairy goddess also sighed. Reincarnation was more damaged than we imagined. We haven't repaired it yet. Who would have thought that chaos was about to erupt outside again? What a coincidence. No, this matter must be stopped. With the descent of the 10,000 races, the human race will suffer a destructive blow. We must not let the events of the primordial era happen again. After so many years of hard work, the great emperor of the human race must not be wasted. The blue-clothed saber saint's voice was sonorous. It was really a crisis. The drinking uncle in the sky also sighed. We can't leave this place for the time being. At most, we can only send a few clones over. What they were most worried about now was the number of extreme weapons and the number of saints in the primordial theocrats. How many were there? Xia Jiuyo took a deep breath. There were at least 3 extreme weapons, and the number of saints would definitely not be small. Moreover, the remote antiquity families and the few peerless sacred grounds would not use their trump cards unless they had no other choice. Therefore, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. More importantly, the emperors and princesses were also resurrected this time. Their ability to rally people was too strong. The primordial theocrats would probably reach an unprecedented level of unity. This was the most fatal thing to the human race. As soon as these words were spoken, the stalwart figures in the sky fell silent. After a long time, the white-haired demon lord said in a deep voice, "What do you need us to do?" Next, Xia Jiuyo began to transmit his voice to the stalwart figures. After hearing this, they frowned and transmitted their voice as well. In the end, both sides reached an agreement and set up a plan. There was no time to lose. Everyone should act together. They must intimidate the primordial theocrats. There must not be chaos, Xiaojiuyo said in a deep voice. The others nodded and prepared to leave. However, at this moment, the drinking uncle in the sky smiled. Old Xia, how is that kid? Not bad, right? He's beyond imagination. In the future, he will definitely be one of the strongest geniuses in the great emperor competition, Xiaojiuyo said. Of course. How could the person that I chose be wrong? In the sky, the middle-aged man who was drinking laughed. However, Xiaojiuyo sighed. However, the incident in the nest of 10,000 dragons this time was also caused by this brat. It was Shaoqin who discovered the location of the nest of 10,000 dragons. That was why all the holy sovereigns and church masters chased after him. It was fate. However, that was also good. Those saints and saintesses were no longer enough to train him. It was a good opportunity for these prides of the far ancient royal family to compete with him. Let him do what we couldn't do back then. Once those words were spoken, the surrounding figures were also astonished. Who was this young man they were talking about? How could he receive such an evaluation? After all, regardless of whether it was Xiaojiuyo or the figure within the black vortex in the sky, both of them were extremely terrifying existences. That god shocked them to the core. However, who was this young man that both of them were praising? How heaven-defying would it be? This made them very curious. At this moment, the figure in the black vortex in the sky put away the wine pot and said with a smile, Old Xia, let me introduce you to another person, our new partner. Oh, new partner? Xiaojiuyo was stunned. To be able to become their partner, that person's strength was definitely earth-shattering. Because their strength wasn't as simple as a saint's. As the voice fell, a ray of light flew over from afar and turned into a middle-aged man. He walked with majestic steps and a calm gaze, carrying an unparalleled domineering aura. Feeling the aura from this person, Xiaojiuyo also narrowed his eyes. In front, the imposing figure looked at Xiaojiuyo and said in a deep voice, I'm Lin Zhan. Greetings, old Xia. Lin Zhan! Xiaojiuyo muttered. At this moment, the white-haired demon lord said in a deep voice, He's qualified to stand side by side with me. The exceptional sword saint and fairy goddess nodded as well. Obviously, they also tacitly approved of Lin Zhan's strength. In the sky, the figure in the black vortex also stood up. Old Xia, don't worry. His origin isn't simple either. If there's a chance, I'll tell you. Now, let's hurry up and make arrangements to intimidate the 10,000 ancient races. Alright, several earth-shattering figures disappeared in the reincarnation mountain. In the vast land of the Middle State, 3 silver silhouettes streaked across the sky like flashes of lightning. The imperial capital of the Divine Wind Empire is in front. Let's go there. Alright. One of the figures let out a cold laugh, and 3 streaks of lightning quickly flew towards the imperial capital of the Divine Wind Empire. The Divine Wind Empire was one of the most terrifying empires in the Middle State. Its imperial capital was, of course, incomparably prosperous. A huge city, like an immemorial beast, stood on the boundless earth. The dragon chi here was abnormally dense. Spiritual chi was everywhere. Especially in the depths of the palace, there were low dragon roars that weren't any weaker than the ones in the nest of 10,000 dragons. At this moment, 3 silver figures domineeringly descended in the imperial capital. These 3 figures were very arrogant. They directly descended from the sky and even activated the array formation of the Divine Wind Empire. Who dared to barge into the imperial capital? Cold snorts sounded one after another, and those experts in battle armor rushed out. Their cold gazes looked towards the sky. To enter the imperial capital, one had to pay spiritual stones from the south gate to enter. Who dared to directly descend from the sky? This was an act of courting death. In the sky, the 3 figures sneered. We are the experts of the Silver Lightning clan. If you dare to leave with us, we will kill you without mercy. The 3 of them were very arrogant. They descended amidst the light of the array formation that filled the sky. What? The experts of the Silver Lightning clan. The cultivators in the imperial capital cried out in alarm. Countless gazes looked forward. They were indeed ancient creatures. They discovered that the three figures were very young, but their bodies were covered in silver scales and surrounded by terrifying silver lightning. Why would the experts of the Silver Lightning clan come here? Could it be that something big was about to happen again? These cultivators were discussing fervently. The guards also had ugly expressions on their faces. One had to know that ordinary people, even people from other sacred lands, wouldn't dare to trespass into their imperial capital like this. But the other party dared to. Moreover, they really didn't dare to make a move. Because the other party was an ancient creature, an expert of the 10,000 ancient races, they could only report this scene. Soon, the elders above sent down a message. They told the guards to retreat and ignore the three experts of the Silver Lightning clan. This scene caused the cultivators in the imperial capital to cry out in alarm. The Divine Wind Empire was silently lowering its head. The 10,000 ancient races were really terrifying. Chapter 2788. Yes, three young people could break the rules of the imperial court as they wished. Keep your voice down. They are godlike existences now. Don't provoke these ancient creatures. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. An older generation figure warned. Sure enough, wherever the three Silver Lightning race experts passed, the human cultivators all retreated. They didn't even dare to get close to them. This scene made the three Silver Lightning race geniuses very satisfied. What they wanted was this kind of respect. I wonder what the three of you are here for? A royal family elder walked over and wanted to invite the three Silver Lightning race experts into the imperial palace. There's nothing else. We're just here to challenge a person. To be more precise, we want to teach a person a lesson. Teach a person a lesson? Who dared to provoke the experts of the Silver Lightning clan? Who was so reckless? Could it be that kid? They remembered the previous rumor that the Silver Lightning race's envoy was beaten out by Immortal Palace's Lin Xian. That's right, their guess was right. A Silver Lightning race heavenly genius spoke, precisely Immortal Palace's Lin Xian. Spread the news to the world. Say that we're waiting for him in the imperial capital. Tell him to wash his neck clean and come here to die. Since he dares to provoke us, he's dead meat. Lin Xian, it's really Lin Xian. They're actually going to attack Lin Xian. Heavens, this is truly a shocking piece of news. Lin Xian is not only the master of Immortal Palace, but also the Central Emperor. He's one of the 5 great titled geniuses of the human race. There aren't many geniuses in the human race who dare to challenge him. They didn't expect that the creatures of the 10,000 ancient races would actually attack him. Do you think that Lin Xian can withstand it? I don't know. It's rumored that the 10,000 ancient races are very terrifying. That's not necessarily true. Lin Xian is one of the top 5 geniuses. How can he lose? Discussions sounded one after another. Everyone was discussing animatedly. They knew about Lin Xian's strength. In the younger generation, there weren't many people who were his match. However, they hadn't seen these geniuses of the 10,000 ancient races in action, but they knew about it from the legends. How terrifying were these 10,000 ancient races? Therefore, if the two sides really fought, it would be hard to say who was stronger and who was weaker. However, there were also people who were unconvinced. Sure enough, someone stepped forward. Although the 10,000 ancient races are strong, in terms of individual strength, you're no match for God Lin Xian. That's right, Lin Xian is the Central Emperor. How can you compare to one of the top geniuses of the human race? You are just relying on the fact that you have survived since ancient times and have ancestors in your family. Many people muttered softly. Clearly, they were very dissatisfied with the attitude of the 3 Silver Lightning races' sky prides. Rely on our family? Are we inferior to that human brat? What a joke! The 3 Silver Lightning clan experts were enraged. How can ants like you understand our strength and power? Whoever wants to die can come and try. Let's see if we are strong or not. The three of them stood there like fiend gods. Lightning constantly surged from their bodies, turning into lightning beasts that roared in all directions. Humph, do you think I'm afraid of you? Today, I'm going to experience just how powerful the legendary 10,000 ancient races are. A young man walked out from the crowd. It was him, Emotiani. He was also a Sky Pride. Yes, he was a genius of the Emo family, and he was very powerful. It was said that he had the combat strength of a saint, and it was said that he admired Lin Xian very much. He especially admired Lin Xian's 9-yang divine body. It seemed that this time, he was going to make a move. Everyone retreated, but at the same time, they were nervous and expectant. If a saint-level Sky Pride were to fight against the ancient creatures, they would definitely be able to detect the strength of these ancient creatures. After all, the saint level was still the top level among the younger generation. In front, the three Silver Lightning Race's Sky Prides looked at the young man who walked out with disdain in their eyes. You're the one who wants to challenge us? That's right, it's me. Emotiani snorted coldly, and a golden light rushed out of his body, turning into golden giants that roared beside him. You're courting death. Great, I'll play with you. In front, one of the Silver Lightning Race's Sky Prides walked out. He looked at the other party and said, Use your strongest attack. Otherwise, you won't have a chance. You'll see. Emotiani snorted coldly. Divine Light Palm! He made a move. He struck out with his palm. The golden palm was like a Buddha, covering the sky and the earth. The void instantly collapsed. You're overestimating yourself. How dare an ant compete with the sun and the moon? In front, the Silver Lightning Race's Sky Pride sneered and threw out a punch. Silver Lightning jumped on his body, wrapped around his fist, and rushed forward. This silver fist was even more ferocious and domineering, carrying with it a supreme aura. Boom! Boom! The two collided, and a bright light burst out. Waves of energy swept in all directions. Crack! 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 Countless cracks appeared on the Divine Light Palm, and then it suddenly shattered. What a terrifying power of lightning! Even the Divine Light Palm couldn't resist it. It was too terrifying. The Divine Light Palm was an extremely terrifying power of the light element, and it was said to be able to shatter everything. However, at this moment, it couldn't compete with the other party at all. Damn it! Emotiani's expression also changed. He felt a violent power surging toward him. It was as if it was going to devour him and tear his body apart. The other party was too powerful, so powerful that it was beyond his imagination. He was already a Saint Sky Pride. However, the other party's casual punch had caused a fatal crisis to him. Scram! He roared, and his body was like a golden stream of light as he quickly retreated. At the same time, the golden giants on both sides blocked in front of him and attacked. Roar! The two light giants were indomitable, like immortal kings. However, the Silver Lightning Race's Sky Pride sneered. With a furious roar, the lightning fist suddenly exploded. It instantly blasted the two light giants away. This energy also blasted Emotiani, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. His body was charred black, and the lightning had also penetrated his body. Not only that, but his entire body was numb, and he couldn't use any power. This lightning was too frightening. You! Emotiani didn't attack again. His body was trembling, and his face was full of fear. Trash, you're trash. You can't even block one of my punches. At the front, the Silver Lightning Race's Sky Pride sneered, and the surrounding people were dumbfounded. Was that true? A Saint's Sky Pride couldn't even block the other party's punch? The Silver Lightning Clan was simply too terrifying. Moreover, the Silver Lightning Race wasn't even a primordial royal race. Then, how terrifying were the Sky Prides of the primordial royal race? Above the primordial royal race was the primordial royal race. Could it be that the primordial races were so much stronger than humans? At that moment, many people's faces were filled with despair. You bunch of ants, you were our slaves before. However, we were in a deep sleep, which gave you humans a chance. Now that we have awakened, we will rule the world, and all of you will become our slaves again. Chapter 2789. After defeating Emotiani, the voice of the Silver Lightning Race's prodigy sounded again, full of mockery and arrogance. Hearing this, the surrounding cultivators trembled and clenched their fists. Many of the older generation experts were also gnashing their teeth. However, without exception, none of them dared to make a move. They had no choice. The other party's identity was too terrifying, and there were countless powerful races behind him. If they made a move, they would be declaring war on the 10,000 ancient races. Therefore, they could only gnash their teeth and stare at the other party. "You ants, hurry up and inform Lin Xian to come here and die!" With that, the 3 Silver Lightning Race's prodigies walked toward the palace. The news spread like a hurricane. When everyone learned that the Silver Lightning Race's prodigies were so terrifying, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. At the same time, they were all looking forward to Lin Xian making a move. They really hoped that God Lin Xian would make a move. It would be best if he could kill these ancient creatures in one move. Yes, the other prodigies didn't dare to make a move at all. Perhaps only God Lin Xian would dare to make a move. Yes, the Yi family and the Gu family were all silent. Only the Central Emperor Lin Xian wouldn't be afraid of these 10,000 ancient races. Cries of surprise resounded in the true spirit world. Lin Xian naturally received the news as well. He frowned. 3 Silver Lightning Race's prodigies were waiting for him in the Divine Wind Imperial capital. They wanted to fight him. Where did this group of people get their confidence from? They even dared to fight him? He asked in a deep voice. It couldn't be an ambush, right? He wanted to see if there were any Silver Lightning Race's prodigies lying in ambush there. Lin Xian suspected that this was a trap for him. But very soon the news spread. Reporting to the palace master, there was no ambush. Only the 3 Silver Lightning Race's prodigies had arrived. At that time, it caused quite a commotion in the imperial capital. The Immortal Palace's cultivator quickly told Lin Xian what had happened that day in the imperial capital. After Lin Xian heard this, he frowned. So powerful? They didn't even put the Divine Wind Imperial capital in their eyes? These people from the Silver Lightning clan were truly courting death. However, when he heard that the Divine Wind dynasty did not do anything to the people from the Silver Lightning clan, he started to frown. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes when he found out that the other party had easily defeated a saint prodigy. Currently, the strength of an ordinary saint was equivalent to a late-stage 8-star. If they were a little more powerful, they would be equivalent to an 8-star pinnacle. As for the top holy sons, they had the battle prowess of an early-stage 9-star. They were equivalent to ordinary invincible kings. For example, Lin Xian had been able to kill early-stage 9-star invincible kings. Now, after being nourished by the dragon energy in the nest of 10,000 dragons, Lin Xian's 9-yang divine body and great dragon sword spirit have improved once again. Therefore, he was now equivalent to a mid-9-star invincible king tier. Of course, there were very few people who could reach his level. It could be said that there were very few among the younger generation of the human race. He wondered what level of strength these Silver Lightning clan members had reached. No matter what level they reached, Lin Xian was very confident in his trump cards. He didn't think that these people from the Silver Lightning clan could defeat him. Since they were courting death, he would fulfill their wish. Lin Xian stood up and prepared to head to the imperial capital of the Divine Wind dynasty. The Crimson Dragon followed and went together. Of course, there was also a guardian in the dark, Xiao Wu. Rosalong activated the teleportation platform and directly teleported. Lin Xian didn't want to waste time. The Crimson Dragon set up a teleportation platform and tore through the void. The two of them disappeared. When they reappeared, they were in a mountain range. The Crimson Dragon looked around, then pointed ahead and said, "In another 20 to 30,000 miles, they should be able to reach the imperial capital of the Divine Wind dynasty. Let's go!" Lin Xian waved his hand, and the two of them quickly flew forward. In the Divine Wind dynasty, more and more cultivators gathered here. The reason for that was because they knew that a world-shaking battle was about to take place here. Many powerhouses and geniuses of the Holy Lands and sects also rushed over, ready to watch the battle. In fact, the crowd even discovered that there were several ancient eras organisms roaming around. Damn it, there are ancient life forms of other races here. This scene caused them to be extremely shocked. Of course, these archaic creatures were also invited away by the elders of the Divine Wind dynasty. They didn't know which race these archaic creatures were from. They were also so powerful. They felt that they were not weaker than the Silver Lightning clan. Let's not talk about them. Why hadn't Lin Xian of the Central Emperor come yet? Who knew? He probably hadn't received the news yet. Or perhaps, he was on his way here. Of course, among them, the people of the Toba clan, the Yin-Yang sect, and the Five Elements Palace sneered. Humph, I'm afraid he doesn't dare to come. Don't use your useless thoughts to judge Lin Xian. Lin Xian's supporters sneered and retorted. That's right, Lin Xian was the Central Emperor, and he had just beaten away the powerhouses of the Silver Lightning clan. Why wouldn't they dare? If there was anyone who didn't dare to say anything, it should be them. The dignified saint didn't even dare to fart in the face of these archaic creatures. Sneers and mockery sounded one after another, and the geniuses of the Holy Lands and sects gritted their teeth. They were so angry that they almost vomited blood. Buzz! The arrogant voice of the Silver Lightning clan came from the palace again. That Lin Xian, is he here yet? If he is, tell him to get over here. I can kill him with one slap. The voice was like thunder, turning into an endless sea of thunder in the sky, forming thunderclouds that floated in the sky. These people were so suppressed that they couldn't breathe. It was too terrifying. They were in the palace, but they caused such a terrifying impact in the outside world. These three geniuses of the Silver Lightning clan were really terrifying. Seeing this scene, the people of the Yin-Yang sect, the Five Elements Palace, and the Tuoba family laughed. They felt that these three powerhouses of the Silver Lightning clan might really be able to kill Lin Xian. Half a day later, there was a sudden commotion at the gate of the imperial capital, and screams of surprise could be heard. Lin Xian was here. What? Central Emperor Lin Xian was here? The cultivators in the city also received the news and moved out one after another. In an instant, the streets, the sky, and all kinds of restaurants and shops were crowded with people. There were people. These people were not ordinary people. They were either elders or peerless geniuses. Every single one of his identities was shocking to the public. But now, they were all waiting for one person. They were all waiting for Lin Xian. Lin Xian strolled leisurely with the Crimson Dragon beside him. Wherever the two of them passed, the crowd parted like a tide. No one dared to stop them. So powerful! Why do I feel that his aura has become stronger again? That's right, could it be that his strength has increased again? He's really a monster! Everyone looked at Lin Xian and exclaimed. Is this the dragon beside Lin Xian? Is it really a dragon? It's absolutely true. I saw it with my own eyes in the nest of 10,000 dragons. Everyone looked at the Crimson Dragon again and exclaimed. Chapter 2790. The Crimson Dragon bared its teeth and glared at the people around it, scaring them so much that they didn't dare to speak. When it came to the front, the Crimson Dragon shouted at the top of its voice. Where are the three silver electric race guys? Tell them to get over here. Ben Wang roasted them into skewers and ate them. He was too angry. Someone actually dared to shout at them. They really didn't know what was good for them. Snake, you're courting death. An angry voice came from the palace. In the sky, the huge thundercloud trembled and erupted with endless lightning. It surged down, wanting to kill the Crimson Dragon. You want to hurt Ben Wang with this little bit of lightning? Ben Wang will spit on your face. He opened his dragon mouth and endless seawater surged out, surging in the sky and colliding with the lightning that filled the sky. The seawater completely annihilated the lightning and even scattered the thundercloud in the sky. So powerful! Seeing the Crimson Dragon break the attack of the Silver Electric Race with a casual attack, the surrounding warriors also screamed. Humph! In the distance, 3 figures instantly arrived nearby like lightning. Their faces were gloomy as they stared at the Crimson Dragon. It was indeed a dragon. The intelligence was right. Damn it, this kid actually had a dragon by his side. He shouldn't be from the nest of 10,000 dragons, so we don't have to worry about him. The 3 of them quickly communicated. If he was really from the nest of 10,000 dragons, they would probably have knelt down by now. But unfortunately, the Crimson Dragon wasn't a dragon from the nest of 10,000 dragons. The 3 Silver Electric Race powerhouses snorted coldly and ignored the Crimson Dragon. Instead, they stared at Lin Xian. Kid, you're finally here. The 3 of them formed a triangle and surrounded Lin Xian. Their bodies emitted a biting cold killing intent, forming a unique domain that enveloped heaven and earth. The 3 of you want to challenge me? And you even said that you want to kill me with a slap? Lin Xian looked at the 3 of them and stood with his hands behind his back. He looked calm. That's right, it's us. Kid, you actually dared to injure the emissary of the Silver Electric Race and challenge the authority of the Silver Electric Race. You really want to die? Don't you know that you used to be our slave? Lin Xian smiled. You said it yourself, that was in the past. How many tens of thousands of years have passed? The strength of the human race is far beyond your imagination. I'll give you a chance to apologize and get lost. I'll spare your lives. Otherwise, what will happen to you? His voice was laced with a biting cold threat. Hearing this, the 3 powerhouses of the Silver Electric Race were enraged. Incomparably resplendent lightning exploded from their bodies, piercing through the surroundings. The surrounding warriors quickly retreated. The elders of the royal family even activated the array formation. Flickering runes appeared on the streets and on the buildings. Seeing the royal capital activate the formation, the surrounding cultivators heaved a sigh of relief. To the end. It's useless to say more. Let me see what kind of ability you have to dare to kill me with a single slap. Of the assessed. There's no need for the 3 of us to deal with you. I alone am enough. One of them stepped forward. It was him who had defeated Emotiani with a single punch. Kid, remember me? My name is Yin Feng. The powerhouse of the Silver Electric Race stepped forward. His expression was arrogant. One slap is enough to kill you. Offending us is the biggest mistake you've made in your life. Your aura is not bad, and your eyes are cold. Unfortunately, you don't have the right to be arrogant in front of me. Lin Xian shook his head and sighed. Why are there always people who don't know what's good for them and want to challenge me? You're courting death. Yin Feng's expression was solemn. His eyes shone with a cold light. He raised his palm. An endless sea of lightning spread out from his hand, forming a large silver palm that shone brightly in the sky. Feeling this palm, the peerless powerhouses all trembled. Even the invincible kings felt their scalps go numb. So powerful! Yin Feng definitely had the strength of an invincible king. No wonder he could defeat Emotiani with a single punch. Everyone exclaimed. Boom! In the sky, the large silver palm with mysterious runes fell from the sky and enveloped Lin Xian, wanting to smash him into pieces. Lin Xian stood there with his hands behind his back, a confident smile on his face. He didn't move at all. He waited until the palm was right above his head before he raised his hand. His hand turned into a fist and charged forward. Boom! The two collided. There was a deafening sound. Hundreds of thousands of lightning bolts fell from the sky. The entire imperial capital shone with arrays and runes, forming a super defense. The terrifying energy bombarded, creating a sound like a stormy sea. Endless energy waves rushed into the clouds and tore the sky apart. It was too terrifying. The surrounding cultivators exclaimed. The commotion caused by the two's attack was too terrifying. If there weren't any arrays, this attack could probably destroy half of the imperial capital. And these people wouldn't be able to escape. What terrifying lightning! Even invincible kings didn't dare to touch it. The silver runes on the palm must be the bloodline power of the silver electric race. It was too terrifying. These ancient lifeforms had a unique advantage. Exclamations could be heard. Beside him, the other two silver electric race experts sneered. How dare he fight with Yin Feng? He must be courting death. This time, his arm would probably be crippled. Not only that, but half of his body would be smashed. The two of them were very confident. The sea of lightning that filled the sky slowly disappeared. When everyone saw the situation in the sea of lightning, they were all stunned. Their minds went blank, and their eyes widened in disbelief. Especially the other two geniuses of the Silver Palace race, who screamed, "Impossible! Crazy!" They were all crazy! Because they saw Lin Xian standing there with his hands behind his back, his body emitting a golden light. Their companion, Yin Feng, was in a sorry state. The lightning on his body dimmed, and his entire arm was deformed. His palm was cracked. Fresh blood stained his body. He was injured. Yin Feng was injured. Damn it, that's impossible! I don't believe it! Yin Feng's physique was so strong, and he even used his bloodline power. This attack could at least seriously injure him. If he was lucky, he could even kill Yin Feng. But now, Yin Feng was injured, and his opponent was unharmed. The two Silver Lightning Clan experts had gone mad. They could not accept this fact. The surrounding warriors also sucked in a breath of cold air. That silver palm made even the invincible kings tremble. But he could easily block it, and even seriously injure his opponent. Ha ha! The nine-yang divine body was indeed powerful. That's right. Lin Xian was mighty. What silver electric race? How dare they fight me, Lin Xian, in close combat? You're courting death. Do you know what the nine-yang divine body is? Lin Xian's supporters mocked and ridiculed. The Crimson Dragon also sneered. In the 10,000 ancient races, apart from those monstrous geniuses with exceptionally strong physiques, there were probably not many who dared to compete with Lin Xian in terms of physique. After being nourished by the dragon's aura in the nest of 10,000 dragons, Lin Xian's nine-yang divine body had reached the 5th stage of the 2nd level. It was truly terrifying. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.